The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey out there, happy holidays.
Yeah.
It's our Christmas special. Mm-hmm. We do this every year. It's hard because we kind of like run out of like cool shit to talk about for the Christmas special.
Is this the second year?
No, I think this is the third year because I think the first year we did it before we even had like, visual component.
Yeah.
We did like Christmas creatures. We talked about like Krampus and, the Christmas witch, La Befana, whatever.
Yeah, nobody watched that one.
Well,
we were a real small channel then.
I had a good time. Last year, what the hell did we do for our Christmas show last year? I don't even remember.
Didn't we have some guests over or something?
Maybe. Now I can't even remember.
Yeah.
This year, what I couldn't decide what to do for a really long time, and then I was like, well, I think what we'll do is we'll do something like we do with the Thanksgiving show, like a variety show, where it's like you talked about some Christmas shit and like some Christmas adjacent kind of shit.
And some horrible stuff.
Because that's how we roll. I'll save it for last, so it'll leave the show on a cheerful note, like right before, because I think the show's going up on Christmas Eve, unless you're a patron, in which case it will go up the day before that. Right. So you'll be left after you listen to the show like really super depressed for Christmas. Yay!
Yeah, Christmas is a thing of Satan. Invented by the Coca-Cola Company.
Except not. Yeah. And we're going to get into that. I'm going to get into that because that's like something I always found really fascinating, like where the modern visual conception of Santa Claus came from.
That's right. And this is the time where you need to get on Netflix and go watch Christmas Chronicles with Crussell.
He just keeps plugging that. Yeah.
I'm going to plug the Crussell. I'm plugging the Crussell.
Oh.
Damn, it has
that came out wrong.
That's fucking wrong. I'm going to plug Crussell's movie, fucking Christmas Chronicles. Go back there and see it.
It's really good.
That's my definitive Christmas movie.
I had a good... It's like... I like just regular Christmas movies. I mean, I'm more into like Christmas horror movies, obviously, because I'm just more into horror movies in general. Well, yeah, everybody's got to
Die Hard and Christmas Chronicles right there.
I think, those will probably be the ones that we actually watch on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Yeah. And because we already watched Black Christmas, and I already watched like a couple. There's like Shudder has some good ones, like Better Watch Out, and some other ones. I might watch those again, but we'll see how it goes. Because like I said, I think Netflix. Is it Netflix or Shudder that has Red Christmas? That is a fucked up.
I haven't seen that one.
Yes, you have.
I have. Oh yeah.
It's the one with
the one with the French one, right?
No,
it's not the French one. Okay.
No, we saw this one. Confused. We saw this one last year. Remember, it was the one about the guy that came to the house and he turned out to be like the not quite aborted fetus.
That was good. Yeah,
that was a messed up.
That was funny.
That was a messed up, Chris. If you're easily offended, you probably don't want to watch it. But I thought it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
I thought it was really good.
That was a good one.
And you got to see. It's called Red Christmas. I just said you got to see somebody get killed with a fucking blender or something like that.
Yeah.
There's some really good kills in it. But yeah, so that's what we'll be doing. So, like I said, we're gonna talk about like just a variety of shit, and depending on how drunk we get, then we'll see.
It's gonna be a long show.
It probably will. I'm gonna have to like do it in parts just to make sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long show.
Because we have to like take breaks in between and shit like that. We try to do like put more Christmas shit in the background, but it's like all the lights that we had didn't work. Yeah. And we couldn't like only part of the string lit up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long enough to like get.
Got a new Christmas tree. That sucker's like 12 feet tall.
It's 12 feet. It's so tall that the top of it, like you can't put a star or an angel or nothing on top because the top of it touches the ceiling.
Yeah, but it goes together a lot faster than the old one. It's just 4 segments that go together and it opens up like an umbrella. It's got the lights on it already.
Yeah, we got lazy.
Because I was so fucking frustrated.
We got lazy.
I got so fucking frustrated with the string of lights, man. One bad light and the whole thing goes bad. Couldn't keep those lights up and running. But these lights are built in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this is the tree Crussell would have.
When these go out, you're fucked because now you're gonna have to like.
I
thought they stopped doing that with Christmas tree lights because wasn't that like back in the old days, like when I used to put up the Christmas tree for my grandmother, like when I was a kid. They had that too. It's like you buy like new lights every year. One, they'd be all fucking tangled up until I was like anal retentive and I'd like wrap them around cardboard and I'd be like, see, aren't you guys happy that I'm anal retentive and did this for you?
Those fucking lights were fucking shit.
But it's like every year you'd have to buy new ones. Yeah, they were cheap and shit. They're only like $1 or $2 for like a string of them. But I thought they had fixed that now where it's like the whole fucking string didn't go out if one of the fucking bulbs went out.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a really easy thing to rectify.
I remember back when I was a kid, a string of lights actually had glass bulbs on them that would actually fucking break sometime, and they were colored.
Well, they had those
outside.
like big ones.
Yeah, they were big.
You weren't actually supposed to put those on your Christmas tree because you would burn your house down.
We did that shit anyway.
I know we did too, but you're not supposed to. I didn't realize that until later. I didn't realize that until later. It's like those are outside lights. You're not supposed to put them on the Christmas tree. You'll burn your fucking house down.
This was the 70s. We did whatever we wanted to.
We burn our house down. No one's going to tell us we can't.
My dad was fucking putting the damn string of light bulbs on. I was probably about 6 or 7, and I saw that one of them was broken, missing a light bulb. I stuck my finger right in that socket, and lit me up. Bam!
Yep.
Yeah, I was about 6 or 7. Dad saw me go flying, and I saw the look on my face. What happened? And I was just sitting there going, and he goes, "Did you get shocked?" And I went, "Yeah."
I saw another dimension. Yeah. That's what happened.
And back in those days, it just laughed. Yeah, don't put your finger in it.
Because like my little brother, my mom used to like to tell this story. I have 2 brothers, but they're both younger. But my youngest one, he was born in '86. When he was a little kid, he got the smart idea. He found, you remember back in the old days when they used, well, maybe they still have them, I don't know, but they used to have like those prong things that you stuck in the end of corn on the cob to make it like easier to eat so you didn't get your fingers dirty or whatever. So apparently my brother found that like in the kitchen drawer and thought to himself, this looks like it will go right in an electrical socket.
Yeah, it did.
Must be what this is for.
Yeah.
It did go in there.
Yeah.
And just like you said, he was like, phew.
Yeah.
And it's like, but my mom, it's like, she's very funny because she was kind of just like, I mean, this was her like her 4th kid by this time, so she was just like over it. She's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, but she just like to say, she's like, but he's really, really smart because he like saw that thing and associated. He's like, oh, that looks exactly like that's where that should go. It's like, because you wouldn't think that it went into the end of a fucking corn on the cob if you saw that. It looked like it looked like a plug.
Yeah.
So he stuck it in the plug.
That's where he went.
He learned not to do that again.
Yeah, we learned shit we learned shit the hard way back when we were kids. It's fucking awesome.
I electrocuted myself one time. I didn't stick anything in a socket. I don't think I ever did anything that dumb. But I was probably like a little bit older. I was like 11 or 12, and I had gone under the table to like plug in a lamp. And I guess that the lamp cord was frayed and I didn't see it. So I guess where my hand was, like, so when I plugged it in, I was like, so not only did it like throw me back, but I also like hit my head on the top of the table. So that was special.
Yeah, back in the 70s growing up, man, parents used to smoke around the kids. They were smoking constantly.
Yeah. My parents didn't, but my
did.
grandparents
Everybody fucking smoking. One time my dad was lighting up a fucking cigarette and he had that lighter. And I was a little kid and I just zoomed right in on that flame. It was the first time I guess I'd ever seen a flame. I was like, oh. And I went to go touch it like that, and my dad just held it there and let me grab it. And like that. He goes, it's hot, isn't it? Don't touch fire. That's how they used to teach us shit back then.
Well, yeah, like I said, if you burn yourself.
Well, he wouldn't let you. He wasn't going to let me burn myself per se. You know what I mean? He's just going to let me find out.
Like get close enough.
Don't touch fire. And then I never touched fire after that.
I was just thinking of like
don't touch fire.
I was just thinking of God damn it. It was you guys remember that comedian Paula Poundstone? She was kind of big in like the late 80s or early 90s. And she did this really funny HBO special, and I still remember this one thing where she was talking about cooking Pop-Tarts on the top rack of the oven. And then she says in there, she's like, so I go in there to get the Pop-Tarts out. She's like, and you know in the oven, she's like, you know that orange thing? She's like, you know why that's orange?
Yeah, don't touch that. Yeah.
She's like, it's very, very hot, as it turns out.
Yeah.
So it's like every time somebody talks about that, I always remember her talking about fucking baking the Pop-Tarts, the orange thing in the oven.
Yeah.
Very hot, as it turns out.
All right.
But yeah, I don't remember doing anything that dumb. I did other dumb shit when I was a kid, but yeah.
Did all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, I know you did. Mm-hmm. We've heard all your stories about
jumping off the back of the house with a damn album cover stuck on my arms.
I know. I love that story.
That was a good one. Album cover just fucking went flying off.
Do you remember what albums they were? Frampton Comes Alive.
Nah, Jim Croce was one of them.
Oh.
Jim Croce was
Don't mess around with Jim.
Yeah, and then other one was an Elton John record where he's sitting at the black one where he's sitting at the piano.
Yeah. My dad had that one.
Yeah, I remember him exactly.
That's awesome. I'm glad
Yeah.
you remember. I don't think I
Yeah.
remember to ask you before which records they were.
Jim Croce and Elton John.
How funny would it have been if it was a Wings album?
Yeah,
Like Paul McCartney and Wings. Both of them. How awesome would that have been? You should have lied and said that that's what it was.
No.
Or Fly Like an Eagle. You know, like who was that? Steve Miller Band or
Elton John,
whoever the
Jim
fuck it
Croce.
was. Oh well.
Yeah.
What could have been?
Yeah.
All right, so like I said on this show, we'll probably go just like we do on the Thanksgiving one. I have a bunch of like Christmas related shit to talk about, but we might go off on tangents. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully this isn't fucking 4 hours long, but you know how we do. Like I said, depending on how much we drink. It was look at this fucking shit. Okay, so like I ran out of orange juice and didn't realize that, so I was at we were at Aldi last night. I don't know why I didn't buy more orange juice because I'm stupid. But so this is actually, it's kind of festive. It's guava with grenadine.
Yeah. Guava and grenadine and vodka.
Yeah, it's good. You know, so
it's tropical.
It's tropical.
That's all I had.
I was thinking maybe we should do more Christmassy drinks, but I don't think we have any Christmas. We're so like that. We have Christmassy shit in the house. It's
I got eggnog.
Oh yeah, you do, don't you?
Yeah, eggnog and rum.
You got Southern Comfort eggnog. Although
but it's not flavored, it's just regular.
Well, that's weird because I thought when I looked in the fridge and I was like, oh, Southern Comfort eggnog, you would assume that would have alcohol in it, but it
doesn't mention it anywhere.
It does
on it.
not.
I think it's just regular eggnog.
Well, yeah, I think if it has alcohol in it, it has to say like that it.
Yeah, and it would have had a special
alcohol.
name like whiskey flavor. I think it just says eggnog, traditional eggnog.
Huh. So they just make regular old eggnog.
I guess they do.
And then you have to just buy a regular old booze and mix them together your damn self. Like some kind of heathen.
Yeah.
Instead of just buying it already
like
mixed together. Well, yeah, but I'm not a big eggnog fan, I have to say.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. Like, I can drink like a little bit of it. It's too much of it is like too sickly.
It's thick.
That's what I mean. It's like a little, I can't take that much of it.
Every cup, you make eggnog. It's a cup of milk, a half a cup of sugar, and 2 eggs. A little bit of vanilla.
Yes.
That's it. And you blend it. And then you put a little bit of nutmeg in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, it's like I said, it's good, but I can only drink like a,
You're
like a tumbler.
You're basically talking about melted ice cream.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of melted ice cream either.
Yeah.
I like ice cream, don't get me wrong. But once it starts getting like kind of watery
It's like drinking melted ice cream.
See, I don't like it. I like it super frozen. Although I do like soft serve, but that's really not the same thing, is it?
Eggnog ice cream is awesome. Just take eggnog and whip it. Get it real cold, just like ice cream. It'll do it, I would think.
We're having another like discussion that we're going to gain like 30 pounds before
Yeah,
the end of the show, just like we did on the Thanksgiving one. And what we're doing is for Christmas, because remember on the Thanksgiving show, we said that the turkeys were so cheap that we went ahead and bought 2 big like 22 pound ones or something like that.
that other one.
So we ate the Thanksgiving one. Obviously, that's gone. And so now we have the other one, and the other one is thawing. So we're doing pretty much Thanksgiving over again for Christmas, yeah?
It takes nearly a week to thaw a turkey.
5 or 6 days it takes to thaw in the fridge.
In the refrigerator, yeah.
I mean, if you leave it out, it only probably takes like 12 hours only.
Yeah.
Like 12 hours or something if you leave it on the thing. But we've had it in the refrigerator for...
Yeah.
It's a couple days.
5 days probably. 4 or 5 days.
Because I told you the other day, I was like, look, Christmas is only a week away. You might want to take that turkey out.
Gotta make that dressing.
Yeah, so we're basically... So I don't have a problem with that. Thanksgiving food's good, man. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I got a lot of it because we had leftovers and shit, but I'll be ready for it again.
I was thinking about
Christmas
spiral
rolls in.
ham, but we got that turkey. We'll just eat that instead.
You know what? We always had that. I mean, we didn't usually have turkey for Christmas when we were growing up. We usually had ham, and other shit. But I like spiral cut ham, but I would rather have turkey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I put the glaze on that spiral cut and just kind of,
He's
what I mean?
putting the glaze. He's doing it like his sexy voice.
I'm doing it in my mind. Putting the glaze on the spiral cut and then putting it in the oven and cooking it, and unspiraling that thing,
Yeah, they're good. Like I said, we used to get one every year.
Cutting that bone out of the middle, just unload big old pieces of ham, unloading it off of the fucking plate, off of the fucking bone and onto the plate. Hell yes.
Yeah, like I said, my dad's side of the family, we always had a big spiral cut ham because my grandma was really into them. My mom's side of the family, they would do a ham and a turkey.
Yeah.
And every now and then someone would get crazy and do like something weird, like a duck or a goose or something, but not usually. But so sometimes
I don't like ducks.
They're a little, well...
It's all dark meat.
Well, I like dark meat, but yeah, they are a little... That's a little much.
I don't like it.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to having Thanksgiving over again for Christmas.
You know? They're funny shaped, too. They're kind of funny
Sorry,
shaped.
ducks.
Yeah. They're not like round and plump, you know, like a chicken or a turkey. They're kind of these long things.
Although I guess chickens and turkeys aren't really supposed to be round and plump. It's just the ones that
an
they
American
raise.
Chicken and
well,
an
when
American
they raise
turkey.
them in farms, they are because they fatten the shit out of them until they're like freakishly big.
They American the fuck out of them.
Yeah, it's like they're like the equivalent of the like those huge fat people you see in Walmart that can't even walk and they have to get like the scooters. We
have a company here in the United States called Sanderson Farms. It's in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And you know
they're famous. I've heard of them.
Yeah. Some of my family is kind of connected with the owners of fucking Sanderson Farm and some of the people that work up in the head office down there in Mississippi. So we get all the scuttlebutt. Like in Sanderson Farms tried to sell a bunch of chicken to Russia. And Russia saw the chickens and sent them all back.
They're like, what the hell is the matter with these chickens? They're mutants.
Yeah, these chickens are too big. No chicken can be that big. They didn't want them. They thought that there was something wrong with them.
There is kind of. But still delicious.
Lots of roids.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, honestly, we buy those big packs of, like, chicken breasts from Sam's.
Those fuckers are like that.
They're ridiculous.
Like a small turkey.
Yeah, like, you take this, it's like this.
Yeah.
Like the chicken breast. It's like the craziest thing you've ever seen.
And they'll grow to that size like in 12 days.
Yeah. And like I said, they can't even walk, man. They're like...
They break their legs and shit.
It's terrible.
They'll break their legs just walking.
I mean, I'll still eat them, but...
Because they're just so big. They get so big so quickly.
It's funny. I might have mentioned this before. Maybe we were talking about turkeys or chickens or whatever. But there was on Mystery Science Theater. Remember they used to do all like those educational shorts and stuff. And they did one about chicken farming. And I think it was made in the late 40s or late 50s. I can't really remember. Sometime around there. And it's just funny seeing... I think it was called The Chicken of Tomorrow. And they were comparing, like, the older chickens to, like, the newer chickens. And, like, both of them looked like scrawny little nothings, like, next to, next to the chickens of today.
I saw some British people on their news whining and crying about American chicken, said they didn't want it because it was chlorinated. The chlorinated chicken. You know what they're talking about?
What's that?
They're talking about the bleach bath. You know, after they fucking...
Oh, yeah.
After they kill the chicken and get it all dressed out, they dip the chicken through a bunch of water that has chlorine in it, kind of like a...
Well, they're trying to kill a lot of bacteria.
Kind of like a swimming pool.
Yeah.
And that evidently freaked England out a lot because they don't make anything. You know, they don't make chicken. They don't have anything. So they don't realize that if you don't do that, you'll fucking die. That shit's carrying salmonella. That shit's nasty. Chickens are dirty. And those chicken plants are dirty. And if you don't do that, by the time you'll wrap it up in a container, plastic, and put it out there on the shelf, and 2 days later that shit'll be rotten. You gotta fucking kill. Yeah. You gotta fucking kill everything.
It's just, I can understand that, you know, that people don't want to eat like a bunch of horrible chemicals and stuff. That's fine. Yeah. But it's like in some ways
chlorine, no, it ain't no big deal. I've swallowed a gallon of that shit. And
in some ways you have to kind of like, it's kind of a trade-off too, because you have to, you know, you have to kind of come to
you gotta have a happy medium.
A balance between like how much of the chemical is going to be, or do you want like the natural like bacteria, which can also kill you. So I mean, everything, it's nature. Nature doesn't care about you. Nature wants to kill you. It doesn't want to kill you. It just will, because it doesn't care about you. Like I said, it's indifferent. So you have to really kind of hit a happy medium between. It's like, yeah, I don't want to fucking swallow lye either. Yeah. But it's like I also don't want to have salmonella.
Right.
So.
And you're not supposed to eat the chicken right out of the package. You got to wash it before you fucking cook it. But it's just a little bit of damn pool water, really. Yeah. That's all it is. You accidentally swallowed that shit anyway when we were kids. It won't hurt you.
Man, I used
to throw up.
True. I used to swim so much as a kid, like in a chlorinated pool, that my hair turned green.
Yeah.
My hair was green and like hard, like crusty. Yeah. It took a long time to like get rid of that shit.
You'll have some people saying, well, there's other ways to do it. No, there isn't another way to do it in the volume that the United States does it. The United States is a fucking huge country. It's got a lot of mouths to feed. We produce more chickens in a day than the fucking rest of the world will produce in a damn month.
It is
That's how many
still
chickens we make.
still kind of freaky to see those like chicken breasts though, like the
Yeah, they're
at
fucking
Sam's.
huge.
I mean, they're like really disturbingly
Yeah.
large.
In the future, I don't think they'll be growing chickens. They'll just be growing pure chicken meat, cloned chicken meat.
They probably will.
probably how
And
a lot of-
honestly, it's like I know a lot of people are weirded out by that, but it's like I'm not really bothered. It's like if you can grow, I mean, chemically, or atomically even, it's the same thing.
same.
But you don't have to kill an animal to do it, which is nice. So
You're just growing chicken.
you're just growing
meat.
chicken meat.
Yeah. When it gets,
I
cheap
would
enough,
rather
they'll just
have
do it
that than
way.
like have to fucking kill a bunch of cute little animals.
Well, what they'll do is they'll do it. They'll be doing it in a gigantic factory that's kind of like a bio lab. So it'll be more efficient. You wouldn't have to really feed them anything, and you don't need any land to do it. You know.
Yeah, like I said, I
I
think
mean,
it
they're
would be
already
better.
kind of doing that to those fucking poor Chinese fish, where they just throw thousands of fish eggs in a 50 gallon oil drum and put the top on it and let those fish just live in that drum. And they try to get out of that drum, so they just keep fucking pouring drugs in there to keep them sedated.
So they don't eat each other.
Yeah, and so they don't move. But it's fucking terrible when you think of it. I mean, a fish is a fucking robot.
But still,
It's still, let the damn fish be a fish.
yeah.
But they do the swai and all that.
Yeah.
The Chinese are growing them in a damn barrel.
Yeah.
Fucking weird when you think about it. That's really weird.
It is, yeah.
It's just a barrel full of fucking fish, just elbow to elbow or gill to gill. Their whole life.
Watch it
Then they
hurt,
kill them all,
goddamn.
and then they process them all at the same time.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Kind of messed up.
I mean, like I said, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm not super concerned about like, look, if they can grow meat that tastes exactly like meat in a petri dish, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's like you don't have to kill a cute little pig or whatever. I'm all for it.
That's not why they care, though. That's not why they're doing it.
No, I know that, but
They're
it's
doing
like
that
that.
to save money.
Well, no shit, but
It'll
it's like I'm
eventually
just
be-
saying the
yeah.
reason that I would do it. I don't give a shit
Yeah.
about the reason they do it.
It just,
You know what I mean?
You would eventually be able to concentrate and grow a lot of them in a short period of time in a very
yeah.
small area.
Like I said, it's cost
and it would
effective.
just be real cheap. That's the only reason why they
You wouldn't
don't
have
do
to
it.
use a lot of land. You wouldn't have to
And then here's another thing: is that this is going to be poor people food. Really, when you think about it, that's going to be poor people food. Rich people will still be eating that shit on the hoof.
Well, yeah, of course they will.
Yeah, just like they're doing it now.
You just reminded me. You just
Grass-fed.
reminded me of.
Grass-fed.
You just reminded me of Snowpiercer,
What'd
like
he
that.
say?
No, where they were eating those like weird gelatin blocks, and then like later,
Turns just roaches.
yeah, later they found out what they were made
Yeah,
from,
it's roaches. Yeah.
which it's protein and everything, but it's
Yeah.
like I can see why you'd be upset about that.
Yeah.
I don't want to eat roaches; they're super dirty.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all right, so before we get into talking about what we were kind of talking about Christmas shit, whatever. We have like several shout outs this time around. Lots of people to thank this time around. Okay, so we got Christmas PayPal donations from Sandra.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it, so thank you very much. Also from Clara. So thank you guys. They, like I said, they sent us Christmas presents over PayPal, like donations. So thank you guys very much for that. We also have a new patron named Rebecca. We have one already called Rebecca, so we're just calling this one Rebecca L because this is a different one. So thank you, Rebecca. And also we had a patron named Fade who increased their support this week. So thank you guys very, very, very much. Also, I would like to give a special shout out to our friend and listener of the show, Sophie,
Yep.
who sent me the coolest ass Christmas present. Check this out. I cannot wait until I get to read this. This is The Gates of Janus, the infamous book by infamous Moore's murderer, Ian Brady,
Yeah.
where he is talking about other like he's giving his insight into other serial killers and stuff like that. This came out in
Going Hannibal
2001.
Lecter on us.
I guess so.
Yeah.
This came out in 2001, and I think this is like the new edition, so it's got like a bunch of different, it's like a bunch of new stuff in it. So I'm like really super excited about starting to read that because that is like right in my wheelhouse, and I really want to see what that shithead has to say for himself.
Wonder if he's going to talk about his own crimes.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
But so okay, so let's start talking about I want to say too, like the first thing I want to talk about is kind of like the tradition of Christmas ghost stories and stuff like that. And in that vein, I also wanted to do a shout out that starting in the new year, once a week, I'm probably going to start posting, me reading horror stories. Most of them will probably be like old ones, like public domain. Some of them are taken from like Reddit, like people that have posted them and said they were okay to read. Some of them are my stories. Also, and each one will have a theme. It's like, it'll usually be like 2, 3, 4 stories, depending on how long they take to read. I'm trying to get them to be about an hour. I'm doing like a werewolf one. I'm doing like a murderer's one, or like a revenge murder one. I'm doing like all different ones. Haunted hotels. I think I did one of those. So that should be pretty cool. And also somebody asked in the YouTube comments if I would read stories that were submitted. And, yes, I will. So like I said, I can't promise, when they'll be done, because I'm trying to put them together in like themes and stuff. And I'm trying to get ahead so that I don't have to do one every week necessarily, because I already have like 6 or 7 episodes recorded, so that I can kind of get ahead and like have one for every week. I don't know what day of the week I'm going to put them up, maybe Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. But so that'll just be like a new little thing for the new year. If you want to like listen to me read scary stories, then that'll be something that you might want to look forward to, because that's something I'm going to start doing. I'm calling it the witching hour, by the way.
Yeah, she's got a lot of more re-recorded.
Yeah, I've got 6 already recorded. I have like 1 the video's made, but I haven't done the audio yet. Well, I've done a third of the audio. I just haven't done the other thing. So since we're talking about ghost stories, let's talk about Christmas and ghost stories, because that very much used to be a thing. And it's a shame that it's not really that much of a thing anymore. In a way, I feel like, now everybody tells scary stories, horror stories, stuff like that around Halloween, which I guess makes sense now because Halloween is like a way bigger deal than it used to be. But before Halloween really became a big thing, it almost makes more sense for Christmas to be the scary story time, because you have to think, look, the harvest is over. It's like the middle of winter. Everything is dead. I mean, at least if you're in the northern hemisphere, all the trees are dead. It's very cold. Everyone is kind of like stuck inside, sitting around the fire and shit like that. It's the end of the year. It's like the shortest day of the year. So it's like, a time when it seems kind of natural for people to start thinking about like the ends of things and, death and the circle of life and all that other kind of crap. So it actually surprises me that it's not a bigger deal. Like, I think like the biggest, it's been going on for thousands of years, but I think like the biggest recent resurgence of it was like 19th century. The whole Christmas ghost story thing. And there's tons and tons of good ones. I've got a couple that I could recommend. Obviously, the most popular one is A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens, which came out in 1843. But even before that and after that, it was like a big deal. And Dickens even went on later to like, he was like an editor on several magazines, and every Christmas they would put out these big special editions that had all these ghost stories in them, because that was a thing that people very much did, sit around the fire telling ghost stories on Christmas. That was, a big tradition. So it was so much a thing that like, even in, and I love this quote, I was like reading a bunch of articles about this earlier, and I found this quote from 1891. There was like a collection of Christmas ghost stories that was called Told After Supper. And this was written by a humorist named Jerome K. Jerome, which I guess he's a humorist. So I guess he's like, hey, I have the same name as first and last name. That's funny, right?
Back then that shit would have been funny.
Well, back then it's funny.
Yeah.
A lot of things were funny back then that nowadays are like,
you're like, what?
Yeah, I don't get it. But so he actually quoted, and I believe it was in kind of the introduction of this book, that nothing satisfies us on Christmas Eve but to hear each other tell authentic anecdotes about specters. It is a genial, festive season, and we love to muse upon graves and dead bodies and murders and blood.
Damn.
I'm like, that guy, he must have known me.
He's ahead of his time.
He was, really ahead of his time. So like I said, so there's even like mentions in like Shakespeare and stuff like that about how winter is like the best time for ghost stories and all this other kind of stuff. So now the interesting thing though is that when A Christmas Carol came out in 1843, when it was first published, it was at this point that Christmas was kind of on the downturn a little bit. Because if you remember, prior to this, Christmas back in the, Middle Ages and stuff like that had been celebrated, and even before that had been celebrated much like people celebrate it today. It was like a time to like drink a lot, and there was like eat a lot. There was presents and like a big partying like for several days. And, people would like, slaves and masters would switch places, and it was kind of a time to like get crazy and have parades and all this other kind of shit. But Oliver Cromwell kind of put the kibosh on all of that, particularly in England. So by the time like the Industrial Revolution came around, Christmas was just seen as kind of like, it wasn't even really, it was still kind of a holiday, but not really. It's like most people still worked on that day. It wasn't really a big deal. A lot of people didn't take the day off or anything because, when Oliver Cromwell had come along in the 17th century, he was obviously a Puritan. And because Christmas was associated with decadence, because it was a time to drink a lot and like overeat and party and all this other kind of stuff. So of course he's a Puritan and they can't have that. So he made a lot of things illegal. All of the kind of festive trappings. He made Christmas carols illegal. No decorations, no anything like that. So for a long time, kind of Christmas had been on the decline, until Charles Dickens was kind of trying to write the story and sort of bring it back a little bit. But the tradition of ghost stories went back, much farther than that, at least till the Middle Ages, probably older than that. What? You looked like you were going to say something.
I'm getting ready to burp.
Oh. Now, as it happened, when A Christmas Carol came out, this was also about the same time. Like I said, Christmas was kind of, a little bit on the downswing, but it was kind of like, it was kind of going through a little minor resurgence. So A Christmas Carol comes out. The first commercially produced like Christmas cards also had kind of started to come out around this time. And businesses in the 19th century, right around the Industrial Revolution, were looking to kind of kickstart a new holiday around that time period, like to spur sales and whatnot. So Christmas kind of starts to come back a little bit and kind of starts to turn into the thing that we would recognize today. And with this came a resurgence in Christmas ghost stories. So you had a lot of ones by like E.F. Benson, you had ones by Algernon Blackwood and stuff like that. Algernon Blackwood, I'm actually going to read some of his stories on my show. And then there were some like a little later on, and one that I really wanted to recommend, and you can read this in the public domain, so you can read it online for free. It's actually by A.M. Burrage, and it's called Smee. And it's set on Christmas Eve, and it's about a bunch of young people. They're like at a party in this big creepy old house where a girl died. Like she didn't know her way around the house, and they were playing hide and seek, and she like opened a door and she thought it was a room, but it was actually a staircase, and she broke her neck. So then later on, like all these people are in the house playing a variation of hide and seek that's called Smee. And while they're like playing it in this house, it seems that there's an extra person playing with them. And it's like a really good story. It's like really creepy. I just reread it again this afternoon before we did it. So that's one that I would recommend. There's also, this isn't specifically a horror movie. It's kind of set around Christmas time, but it's a ghost story. And it's very famous by M.R. James, who's probably one of the most famous, ghost story writers in England, from back then. And it's called A Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad. Also a very awesome story that you can read online. And what ended up happening with, particularly in the UK, there was like a series between 1971 and 1978 that was called A Ghost Story for Christmas. And they would adapt, it was mostly M.R. James stories, and they would adapt a bunch of ghost stories and like show them like every Christmas time. It was like, like a little movie adaptation of all these old ghost stories to show them around Christmas, because that was a big thing. And what gave them the idea to do that was a 1968 adaptation of A Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad, which was like proved so popular. It was on a show called Omnibus, and it proved so popular that they decided to like do ones like that every year. So it ran for like 7 years and then kind of fizzled out. However, I heard that they have started doing them again as of 2005. And so they'll show them, like, I believe it's on BBC4. They'll show, like, Christmas horror stories. I don't know if it's just one or if they just do one every year, if they do several. But they mostly do M.R. James stories, and along with some other ones and some modern ones also. They also did Charles Dickens' The Signalman, which is also a really good story. A lot of them are not, like, specifically set at Christmas, but they're ghost stories that take place in the wintertime, and you know what I mean. It's that kind of thing. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that even though that was kind of like a big thing in England, it didn't catch on as much in the United States, I feel like. Because, you know, from the start of the U.S., like, you know, with the Pilgrims and the Puritans and all them coming over here. So for a long time, Christmas wasn't really a thing because the Puritans didn't like it. And it's, you know what I mean? It's because of their religion and everything. So they didn't really like it. However, you know, when A Christmas Carol came out, it kind of popularized it in the United States as well. But maybe a writer, like an American writer, that maybe had almost as much to do with it was Washington Irving. You know, he's obviously most famous for Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Rip Van Winkle, stuff like that. But he also wrote a shit ton of Christmas stories, and he seemed to like really want to like kind of bring, because he had lived in England for a while and he really wanted to bring like all of these traditions of like English Christmas like back to the United States because it wasn't really a big thing over here.
Yeah, it's so funny that a lot of these traditions that old boomers think are ancient, like things like Christmas and the NFL, you know, they act like that shit's fucking old. It's just not old, that's all new.
It's not.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's what I mean. And I'm going to talk about Washington Irving like some more in a little bit because he was one of the people that was really kind of instrumental in our more modern conception of Santa Claus. Yeah. But, you know, he wrote so much stuff. And like I said, Dickens, you know, starting in, you know, the 1840s, 1850s, he had these two like publications where like every year they would put out this big special edition. That was like, he had Christmas stories in there. There were like tons and tons of other ones. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like a big thing. And then because it was a big thing in England, like Washington Irving and a couple other writers like popularized it over here as well, because they kind of wanted it to catch on over here. You know, but the thing about it though, is that it seems like I was reading something about why A Christmas Carol in particular was so iconic and why people still know the story today. They do like an adaptation of it like every 5 minutes. It seems like
based on memory, my understanding was that it was almost kind of like a government effort to bring Christmas into existence. And wasn't that part of it? There was like political backing behind that kind of stuff.
Not that I ever heard of.
That's the way I remember.
Not really. I think the thing that people responded to in a Christmas Story was not only was it like a creepy gothic ghost story, but it also had like a nice, like an uplifting moral to it. You know what I mean? Because Scrooge was an asshole, and it's like, you know, he kind of learned his lesson at the end. And so I think that really kind of resonated with people.
I remember hearing something about back in the 1800s. There was a concerted effort to kind of bring Christmas into existence. It was something that already existed, but it wasn't something that was normally, like it wasn't a holiday per se. It took a while for, I think, the American Congress to make that a holiday. There was kind of some corporate backing behind it, and that it was kind of linked with patriotism to a certain extent, of trying to bring a national identity to the United States. That's how I remember reading. I'm not like, I've read a lot of stuff and I've never really seen that. It really does seem like, I mean, there were a lot of writers that liked it, and you know, they kind of popularized it in their own publications. You know, and there were some, you know, there were businesses that wanted it because, you know, obviously it would spur more sales for them. But I feel like, I don't know if it was like any kind of, I think it was just like a bunch of things happening at once. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff in American common culture that exists today that people feel is very patriotic and very traditional, but if you kind of look back into it, it's not very old. I mentioned the NFL. The NFL, the National Football League, seems like it's something America has always had. You know what I mean? It has but actually it hasn't. It's not that old. I mean, my dad's generation was big into that, but that is not football. American football is not that old.
Well, it's only like early 20th century, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I had a black and white photo. Actually, it was more kind of like brown, tan and brown. Remember those old photos? They were more like tan and brown.
Well, like sepia tone.
Sepia tone of my grandfather in Laurel, Mississippi, on the football team, and he was a little bitty dude, probably 5'2". Okay, and the uniform they wore and the rules and the ball, it didn't look anything like American football.
No,
nothing like it, and they weren't big guys. I said, Dad, I asked my dad, I said, Dad, what sport is that? He goes, that's football. And that was like the 30s.
Yeah.
It was like back in the 30s. That's football.
Well, like I said, and
they didn't have helmets.
American football is very much based on rugby.
Yeah.
But like a less rough version of
it. And, well, I saw the photo of my granddad and his and it didn't even have a football helmet. It was just like a leather cap.
Yeah, they just had almost like an aviator cap. It kind of reminded me of.
like you'd fly in it or something. Maybe you would drive a tank in.
Yeah.
And it had
something that kind of covered. It had like ear flaps.
Yeah, like ear flaps. Mm-hmm. And
I've seen them.
What is that? He goes, that's football.
Yeah.
There wasn't any football I recognized. The football that you would think today, the NFL type football, that's pretty fucking recent, and I think it's on its way out in terms of popularity because our generation doesn't really watch it that much.
Yeah.
And I don't think Zoomers want anything to do with those kind of old sports. They like video games.
Well, yeah. You can see why video games are more entertaining.
They're so much better.
Well, it's immersive. You're not just watching other people do something.
Yeah, trying to live vicariously through some dudes that you have nothing to do with.
I mean, you could argue, when you're playing a video game, you're just sitting around your ass too. But it's like, you know what I mean? At least you're like involved in your own.
Just cheering.
You're making like your own story. Yeah. So football, you're just kind of like watching other
cheering.
People in another city,
living vicariously,
running around.
Living vicariously through these teams, doing simulated combat between towns and cities. Nobody gives a shit anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, people do, but I think, like, the younger generation
they don't
not
give
as much, like I said.
Well,
and like I said, I can see why, I mean, video games are a lot more
all you gotta do is look at the money.
Yeah, are a lot more
money talks and bullshit walks, and that money's vanishing in the NFL. People aren't watching it.
But, like, I mean, like you were saying before, our Christmas, and we were talking about this a little bit on the Thanksgiving show, too, because I think, particularly in the U.S., particularly one generation of the U.S. that thinks that, Thanksgiving has just been celebrated, unchanged since the Pilgrims got here.
It's new.
And that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's like it happened a couple times back then in the 1600s, and then, like, no one really gave that much of a crap about it. And then, like, maybe right around the time of the Civil War, like, they kind of started doing it again.
Yeah, a lot of this shit is kind of artificial.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that
it's real, but it's a marketing thing. It has a lot to do with marketing, and sales, and the thing that cracks me up too about Christmas is that, especially people that like complain about, Christmas, it's so commercialized. We should go back to the religious aspects of Christmas. It's like, that's dumb because there was no religious aspect.
Well, that's what I mean.
It's like it.
The way we celebrate Christmas now, presents, food, drinking, stuff like that. That is way more old than the religious stuff. That was added on later.
Yeah,
I mean, if you go all the way back to like super like old like pagan kind of shit, I mean, winter solstice and everything, Saturnalia, like the ancient Romans and everything like that. It's like that's a lot closer
to what we do
now than like the religious stuff.
Yeah, if you go back,
so we are going back to the roots of Christmas. It's just not the roots they wanted.
Now I'm sympathetic to the Christians. It's just that the Christians kind of fucking take shit, and they fucking take shit too far. Our traditional roots of the traditional religious roots of Christmas was to say that Christmas was sacrilegious.
Well, yeah.
That's the roots of it.
Like I said, Christmas was illegal.
Christians didn't like it, if you go back.
Like I said, look at Oliver Cromwell. And when the Puritans first came to the U.S., Christmas it was either illegal in some places or they didn't celebrate it because it was sacrilegious.
Yeah.
Because they saw it as a pagan holiday, which it was.
It is, basically.
Which it was.
Yeah.
Every single aspect of the holiday, the Christmas tree, mistletoe, all of that shit, that is all from old pagan shit.
Most of those,
all of it.
Most of those holidays were pagan, and the Christians kind of adopted them.
Well, same with Easter.
Or
same thing with
Easter and Halloween. They just try to cover them up with a Christian veneer because they knew people weren't going to stop it.
Yeah, so they just figured, we'll
just adopt it.
They retrofit it back to. So you're really celebrating the birth of Jesus, or you're really celebrating even because people were going to celebrate it anyway, so they figured, we can just say it's for this reason.
Some Christian people might be offended by that, but you have to understand
it's true though.
It's true, and a lot of the things that Christians do are borrowed. They're borrowed from other religions, and they're borrowed from other traditions. But that's just the way Christianity is.
That's okay.
It doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
Christianity is made up of many Western traditions. They've just kind of
everything is like that.
Everything is like that.
And it's like, and we'll get into that too when we talk about
nothing is pure.
When we talk about Santa Claus too, because it's like, look, it's like there's billions and billions of people that have lived. It's like cultures are very complicated. Things go on over a very long time. A very long time. Things change and evolve and stuff. So it's like there's nothing wrong with it. And honestly, if people want to celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever, however you want to celebrate it. Just do that. It's like no one's. Don't let anybody tell you it's wrong or nothing like that. You just do whatever the fuck you want to do.
That's right. If you want to be super, super, super Christian and just go back to the roots of Christianity, just become a Jew. Come back to the Jew. Just throw the Old Testament out and go take it to extremes. Throw the Old Testament out. Just go straight Old Testament. Get rid of the New Testament. That's the original. That's OG right there. Okay.
OT.
That's OG, yeah. So everything is a mixture, and everything
and like I said, that's okay because everything is like that. Yeah. So it's like you are never going to find a single thing, particularly having to do with like human culture of any time ever.
Everything is evolving.
That is like just the same as it was when it started.
Everything is evolving, and Christianity evolved also.
Right. Exactly. So like I was saying, the Christmas ghost story thing. I've seen speculated that the reason that A Christmas Carol is still a resonant Christmas Carol today is, like I said, not only because it's like a creepy ghost story, which is always awesome and everybody loves those, but also because it has like a really nice, like uplifting message. Like, here's this asshole and these ghosts came and they changed him and he like became a better person. And I think like a lot of people could get behind that. They said the problem, well, it's not a problem from my point of view, but from a cultural, like, being memorable point of view. I guess a lot of the Christmas ghost stories that came later, even like something like Henry James, like The Turn of the Screw, which is it's not a Christmas story per se, but the frame story is like, a bunch of people Christmas Eve sitting around telling a ghost story, and then they tell the story Turn of the Screw, because a lot of ghost stories back then were like frame stories that were people sitting around a fire telling a ghost story. That is just a scary story, but it doesn't have like an uplifting moral or anything like that. So as there's a lot of the Christmas ghost stories that came later didn't have that sentimentality, that morality aspect to it, and maybe that's why it's not as remembered. Although maybe Turn of the Screw is a bad example because that's like a pretty well remembered story.
You know what though? We can take let's go throw Christianity in there too. The oldest gospel is just Mark. And Mark doesn't have a resurrection scene or a happy ending either.
No.
Jesus is crucified, and that's it.
The end.
The end.
No sequel.
No sequel.
But yeah, so like I said, even though the ghost story thing is not really, I guess it's kind of coming back a little bit, because I have seen like some like podcasts and shit like that do like big Christmas event. There's like a lot of Christmas horror movies and the whole Krampus thing, like with the parades and everything, that's coming back in Europe and everything. So people are kind of getting back to like the scary aspect of Christmas, which I'm all about that. So I'm very happy about it. But it kind of died down. Although as early as the like early 20th century, there were still like some books that came out like around Christmas time, like game books and stuff, like things to do around Christmas that still had like ghost stories in them, or like that listed that as like a big thing that people did on Christmas. So let's talk a little bit. This is kind of like a related topic. Let's talk a little bit about the origins of our modern conception of Santa Claus, because I don't remember what show it was on, but I remember you saying that Santa Claus was the invention of the Coca-Cola company. And that is a very common urban legend.
Well, I didn't actually say that.
Well, you said something like that. It just made me think of it.
I said that motif, that look, that optical visual style that we associate with Christmas and Santa Claus, the red suit, the white trim, the fucking mistletoe, all, you know what I mean? The look. My understanding is that it was the Coca-Cola company that marketed that look.
No. Well,
Is
no.
that true?
They, the thing about it is that, like...
The fat Santa with the beard and the...
No, that's it's much older than that.
Okay, all right. I thought that was a creation of the Coca-Cola company.
I might argue that the Coca-Cola company might have popularized it.
Maybe they brought it into the mainstream.
But
popular,
I mean, I've seen, and I'll put some examples, like when I talk about them, I'll put some examples in the show. I mean, I have found illustrations of Santa Claus from, mid to late 1800s, early 1900s that look pretty much exactly like a modern Santa Claus.
Well, Coca-Cola's
fat
late
guy
1800s, though.
No, they didn't start doing those ads until the 1930s.
Okay.
So they pretty much just appropriated the image of Santa that was already pretty well established.
Go back and tell these greenhorns, these Yankees, these fucking British people, these fucking Australians, these dirty Australians out in the outback. Okay, I love all you bitches. And explain something to you guys about Coca-Cola. All right, Coca-Cola was a soft drink. That's what they used to call it, and it was something that you got in a saloon, and you could get it in any English-speaking country eventually. Also, Dr. Pepper, okay?
I love Dr. Pepper. I like it better than Coke.
And what this was is bars knew what they were doing. Guys would go in there, they start drinking, they get drunk, they start slowing down. Stop drinking. They would stop drinking.
Imagine that.
Because they're getting drunk.
You gotta stop at some point, I guess.
So they'd give them a free soft drink on the house, which would be Coca-Cola.
Well, bars do that nowadays.
Or Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
All right? And that shit had cocaine in it. It would pep you right up.
Yeah.
You'd sober up, so you'd buy more alcohol.
So you'd buy more alcohol, yeah.
And it was the energy drink of its day. I wish energy drinks came with cocaine in them. Instant energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a trip.
Maybe someday if they decide to legalize drugs again, you'll get your wish.
It's my understanding, though. There's been, there's a bunch of controversy. The amount of cocaine in it was very small.
Yeah, it wasn't like
a whole bunch.
Yeah, it wasn't like an equivalent to
it was
snorting the shit like in the
80s. It evidently
like you've read a Jay McInerney novel or something.
Evidently, it was eventually, with the advent of the fucking Food and Drug Administration and the outlaw of fucking cocaine, they substituted it with caffeine.
Yeah.
And it was about an equivalent dose of caffeine of what it was kind of with the cocaine, and it was similar.
Well,
but I think the cocaine version probably would sober you up a lot better.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's the same principle as like bars like putting out all those like salty bar snacks that's supposed to like make you drink more.
Yeah, because you're not drinking on an empty stomach, so you don't get sick.
Well, and also because the salty stuff like dries your mouth out a little bit and it makes you thirsty. That's why they do like nuts and pretzels and shit like that.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It is. I said, they thought of everything.
Every bar that fucking had that out there, I ended up fucking running up a huge tab.
Yeah, see?
It does work.
They know what they're thinking of. Now, if some bars, I don't know, I was always kind of like, if some bars were really smart, they'd start selling like Egg McMuffins.
Yeah. Sell you breakfast right there at the damn bar.
If it was me, because like I think this every time, because for some reason, like when I get drunk and hungry, I usually want eggs. I want something egg based, like an Egg McMuffin and hash browns and shit. Not so much bacon, but like I usually want something with eggs in it.
Yeah.
And so I always thought the most genius move would be to like have a breakfast place that just served breakfast all the time, like 24/7, and open it like right next to a bar.
Yeah.
Like right next to the most popular bar. You would make a killing.
Yeah.
I mean, the place that's like, independent bar where we go, the place that makes a killing around there is that pizza place that's like right behind it. Right. And that's been there for like fucking 40 years, that little pizza place.
I was just thinking about those Australians down there fucking...
with their hot Christmas. Although we have hot Christmas too because it's Florida.
It's Florida.
Sometimes it's cold, but not usually.
Any of you Australians are out there, you remember Mad Max's fucking Ford Falcon XB? I wonder if Ford is making a Falcon for Australia nowadays. And would the Falcon be a Mustang with a slightly different tweaked body? I would do it bigger than shit if I was in charge of Ford. I'm saying I'm going to come up with a Falcon XB for Australia, and it's going to be a Mustang GT with a slightly different fucking body on it. I'd bring that back. It'd probably sell in Australia, I bet. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Any Australians out there, you weigh in on this.
I'd have had that shit looking just like...
Because I don't know. I don't have a dog in this
I would
fight.
have that shit fucking look just like fucking Rakutansky's fucking Interceptor, man. Ground effects and a fucking supercharger sticking out of the hood. Hell yeah. But modernized, yeah. Okay.
Now I just thought of, like, since we're talking about Santa Claus, I was just thinking of, like, a Santa sleigh, but made of his Interceptor.
Yeah.
Like, flying through the air, pulled by reindeer, except the reindeer are made out of car parts. Christmas Mad Max. Shit, man. Now I want to see that. So, all right. So, obviously, you know, the modern conception of Santa Claus starts with an allegedly real guy, St. Nicholas of Myra, who lived in from 270 to 343 AD in what is now modern-day Demre, Turkey. Now, he was known as the patron saint. He's, you know, obviously because he's Santa Claus, people say, oh, patron saint of children. However, he was also the patron saint of sailors, the patron saint of merchants, archers, repentant thieves, not unrepentant ones.
Not the active thieves.
Not the active, but the ones who felt bad.
Ex-criminals, yes.
Also prostitutes.
Yeah.
Brewers.
Okay. Wait a minute, they're putting fucking thieves,
pawnbrokers,
and pawnbrokers all in the same fucking...
And students.
So
he was doing, like, he was wearing many hats, was St. Nicholas, as the patron saint of all these different people, not just children. Yeah. So famously, there was a legend, I don't know how true it was, like I said, but a legend that sprang up around him that he would, like, secretly, like, give people gifts and stuff like that, which is where the whole Saint Nick thing came from. And then he starts getting called Sinterklaas, you know, like in the Netherlands and stuff like that, which is where Santa Claus came from. However, our more modern conception of Santa Claus, even though that's where the roots of it were, probably started to take shape right around the early 19th century. Now, in 1804, there's this fella named John Pintard, and he founded the New York Historical Society in 1804. He was an antiquarian, philanthropist, you know, he's kind of a business owner and stuff like that. Now, for whatever reason, he was like one of his big heroes was St. Nicholas. So he decided that his mission in life was he was going to make December 6th St. Nicholas Day in New York. And he wanted to make St. Nicholas the patron saint of New York, as well as the patron saint of the New York Historical Society. And this was like a big thing. And he was just kept going on and on about it. And he was like writing fucking things that he wanted this day to be like set aside for St. Nicholas because he thought he was so awesome. Now, all of this talk about St. Nick got the attention of the previously mentioned very famous writer, Washington Irving. Now, Washington Irving joined the New York Historical Society in 1809. Now, later that year, he published his first book, which was called A History of New York, from the beginning of the world to the end of the Dutch dynasty.
Damn.
He published it under a pseudonym, Diedrich Knickerbocker. Now, this was actually, even though it was called A History of New York, this was actually not a history at all, but a satire full of a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, that was like, it was just like a funny, like right. satirical, like history, like where he just made up stuff.
Yeah, from the beginning of the world.
And yeah, and he basically, what he did was he kind of like made this romantic version of like New Amsterdam, and he also like talked about the Dutch founders of the city in order to make fun of politicians that were around during his time. So he was making fun of politicians by, you know, very obviously like conflating them with the Dutch founders of New Amsterdam. So an interesting thing that he did though, and this is actually this seems very modern, what Washington Irving did to promote this book and get it to sell. Because this was his first book, if you remember. What he did was he basically said, like, because he wrote it under a pseudonym, he started, like, going under what would today be called sock puppet accounts. And he kept writing into all these different newspapers saying that Diedrich Knickerbocker, the guy that wrote this book that was going to come out, had disappeared mysteriously, and that all that was left of him was this manuscript. So, like, he kept, like, writing all these letters under different names, and it worked. Like, when the book came out, everyone was like, oh, shit, man, we got to find out what happened to this guy. It's like, they took it so seriously that, like, you know, all these people were, like, coming forward going, well, should we look for this guy? It's like, what the fuck? And they're, like, trying to figure out, like, what happened to him and everything like that. So it's like, he's like, he fucking knew what he was doing, man. So, yeah. So that was kind of, so it was like a big deal when it came out. Now, what's interesting about this book is that it came out on December 6th, 1809, which, again, was the day that, you know, Pintard was trying to get set aside as St. Nicholas Day. And so in this book, he tells a story that there's this guy named Commodore Olaf van Kortlandt, who was a real guy, actually, but not the version of it that's in the book, but it was actually a real guy. So he tells a story about this guy who actually came to New Amsterdam in 1637. And in the story, he says that Olaf, he washes up like at a shipwreck, like at the mouth of the Hudson River, and he falls asleep and has a dream in which he sees St. Nicholas riding over the tops of the trees in a wagon that he uses to bring presents to children. Not
a sleigh, but a wagon.
But yeah, it became a sleigh like shortly after, but it was like a wagon, and he said he saw it flying like over the trees, like in this guy's dream. And he also, in this story, he has the thing where St. Nicholas, like, he smokes a pipe and puts his finger next to his nose, which a lot of people will recognize from 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, or A Visit from St. Nicholas, which is a poem that came out a couple years later. And then he has him, like, getting back in the wagon and, like, flying off. So that was kind of like the first thing of, like, the flying sleigh and all that kind of shit. That was from Washington Irving. Now, the poem that came out called A Visit from St. Nicholas, more commonly today remembered as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, that came out in 1823. Now, he took the whole pipe thing and the putting his finger side of his nose thing, he took that from Washington Irving, but then he added the shit about, because when you were saying about him being a fat guy, well, in A Visit from St. Nicholas, he calls him chubby.
Yeah.
Right. And it, like, his belly shakes like a bowl full of jelly and all that other kind of stuff. So he actually calls him fat, essentially, in this poem, which came out in 1823. And like I said, too, Washington Irving, that poem, by the way, if you didn't know, was written by Clement C. Moore, and has been obviously published a lot later on. Like I said, Washington Irving went on much later to write several other stories that had, like, you know, tons of Christmas stories and seemed to, like, really like Christmas. And he really wanted to bring a lot of the, like, English traditions of Christmas, you know, the tree, the, you know, the big meal, the ghost stories, everything like that. He wanted to bring that to, you know, the United States. Now, interestingly, there was a picture book that came out in 1821, a couple years before that poem, and it was called Santa Claus, Santeclaus, like all one word. This book was called The Children's Friend, and it was written by a guy named William Gilly. I don't know if he did the illustrations also, but and I have a photograph of this that I'll put in the show, and this little Santa Claus, he doesn't have red on, but I don't know if it was just, it might have been red at some point. It looks kind of goldish, yellowish, but it might be kind of faded. This little guy is basically sitting in a sleigh, like a wagony looking sleigh, and it's pulled by a reindeer, like just one, not 8. That came later, but he has a little furry hat on, just like, you know, he looks essentially like the modern Santa, except his outfit's like kind of yellowish.
Now, is that just another version of Klaus?
Yeah, well, sort of.
Okay.
Well, like I said, it's kind of like Sinterklaas. It's like Saint Nicholas, kind of. That's where it comes from.
It's my understanding that in Japan they don't call him Santa Claus because they don't think it sounds good. Like Claus, like Sandy Claus.
Oh, like in Nightmare Before Christmas. That's what that's what Jack Skellington thought he was. They call him Sandy Claus. Okay, that's what he thought that the name was.
I don't think they call him Santa Claus in Japan. They have another name for him.
Yeah, I don't know actually if anybody's in Japan.
That's what I remember. I might be full of shit. But
yeah, maybe.
That's what somebody told me. I remembered it.
But yeah, so in this little picture book that's, the first one of like picture book that was about him, he's in his little sleigh and he's got like a little reindeer, and he also has a stick in his right hand, and that is to beat bad children. Mm-hmm. Because like many other countries, not the US obviously, but many other countries Santa has like an enforcer that goes along with him, In some countries, it's like Black Peter, or it's Krampus, or it's somebody like that. It's like, Santa, if you're good, like Santa will bring you toys, but if you're not good, then
dude, get your ass.
Then bad cop will come and beat your ass. Or Krampus, in Krampus's case, he'll either beat your ass or he'll put you in a sack and take you to hell or eat you.
Yeah.
So
we need that though.
We do. It's interesting how like pretty much every other country has something like that, but we don't.
Right.
Because
you gotta have the stick and the carrot.
That's what I mean. And it seems like for a while we did have that because now, like I said, in the U.S., I don't think that Santa in the U.S. has ever had like kind of a bad guy counterpart. Yeah. But for a while, Santa had both carrot and stick. Like he'd have
gives him coal.
Yeah, well, he'd have like the bag of toys, but then he'd also have a switch.
Yeah.
So, like, he'd bring you good shit. Like, if you were good, he'd bring you shit. But then, like, if you weren't, then he'd, like, kick your ass.
How America is. They're going to water that shit down.
That's what I mean. It's like,
Don't tell the children that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, they can't handle it.
Yeah.
That's dumb. I don't, I don't.
They can handle
everywhere else in the world, they can handle it. But somehow here we can't. I don't know.
They were telling us grim fairy tales, but we couldn't handle Krampus.
That's what I mean. It's like, why? Because Krampus is so awesome. Yeah. Come on. And it's like, and like I said, they have, like, so many, and I'm going to talk about one of them later, too, called Hans Trapp.
Yeah.
That's kind of in the French-German border region, which is another thing. It's like a Santa enforcer, like comes there and, you better not fuck up. Or, here it's like pretty much all that'll happen. It's like if you're bad, either Santa won't leave you shit or he'll put some coal in your stocking.
Yeah, give you a switch or something so your parents will
beat you with it.
Beat your ass with the switch, yeah.
But so that was from 1821, was that little guy. Now, one of the earliest depictions that I saw that looks pretty much like recognizable as a modern Santa was from 1838. And this was actually, this little illustration was done by a guy named Robert Walter Weir. And he got the idea of doing like the nose thing and the pipe and everything like that from A Visit from St. Nicholas. But it's basically like a fat guy in a red outfit, and he's by a fireplace, like with a bag, and there's a little stocking hanging from the, mantle with like shit in it. Like, well, not shit, but like with stuff in it. And he's got his little pipe and his little finger and everything like that. So that's 1838. So like I said, this is almost 100 years before Coca-Cola started their ad campaign, where there are Santas that are recognizable as modern Santas. Okay. One of the crazier ones, though, I thought this was kind of interesting. I have a picture of this one as well. So there was a very famous Swedish singer named Jenny Lind back in the mid-19th century. So in 1850, she tours the U.S., and her promoter was P.T. Barnum, the very famous P.T. Barnum. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know why, because context is lost at this point, but to promote the tour, he made this like pamphlet that had and he had like all this other like merch and stuff that went along with this tour, because they did that shit back then too. That's not new. But he had this pamphlet, and there was this drawing on it, and it said Santa Claus on it on the top, but the dude that's like underneath does not look like Santa Claus. He basically looks like Paul Revere. Like he has like a three-cornered hat, and he's like kind of dancing, and there's like a little poem under there saying, I'm dancing a jig, I'm having a freak, which I thought was very funny. I'm like, having a freak? What does that mean?
He's freaking the fuck out.
Yes. So it's like, I guess that's what it was. But I guess so, like, so I don't know, like, what, like, he's got a bag with presents, and he talks about how he comes down the chimney. I don't know what this had to do with the singer, Jenny Lind, what this had to do with her tour. Maybe it was around Christmas time. And I also don't know why P.T. Barnum would made this thing with, like, because, like I said, there had been fairly modern depictions of Santa Claus by 1850, but he made him look like a little Santa Paul Revere or something like that. It's like, it was the weirdest fucking
We're
thing
missing
ever.
the context.
I guess so, but it's like, that's pretty much the weirdest one I've seen from this time period. All the other ones looked recognizable as Santa Claus. And not just St. Nicholas either. Like, some of us, these were like pretty modern looking Santa Claus. Now, probably, though, the guy that is most responsible for our modern conception of Santa Claus, and maybe a lot of people know this, is Thomas Nast. He's a very famous illustrator. He was the guy that came up with the elephant for the Republican Party. He was a political cartoonist. And starting in 1863, he did a series of illustrations for Harper's Weekly magazine, which had like a bunch of Christmas, Santa Claus type illustrations. They had him doing like Santa doing all different kinds of things. And he did he pretty much did them every year for like a very long time. So he had like Santa on the phone. He had like Santa and Mother Goose racing each other for some reason. Yeah. Santa bringing presents to soldiers like in the Civil War. All that other kind of stuff. And these illustrations look very much like the modern conception of Santa Claus. He's got the furry hat, like the red outfit and everything like that. He's fat, So the thing is, though, it's like he didn't have like, a lot of them look modern, but there wasn't a consistent thing, because some of the illustrations, like I said, he did them every year for like a really long time. So he did like their annual Christmas, edition or whatever. Some of them, I guess he took the word, how in A Visit from St. Nicholas, he calls him a right jolly old elf. So I guess he took the term elf literally. So he made him small. Okay. So in some of the illustrations, Santa is like littler than a kid.
Right.
And in one particular illustration that I found, this one, the kids, like, it's two big kids' faces, because like I'm describing it because in case you're just listening to the audio podcast and you can't see the picture that I'm going to show, but it's like two big kids' faces like sleeping, and then there's like a little tiny Santa Claus and like all these other kind of like nursery rhyme characters like climbing all over the kids' heads and everything. So some of the Santas were like really, really small, but some of the Santas he made them like elf-sized. So he was like a gnome kind of, right. Which kind of ties in with like some of the Scandinavian shit I'm going to talk about later. Now, so he kind of did a lot to, give us our kind of modern conception of Santa Claus. Now, I will say that some of the most, if you saw them today and you didn't know what year they were from, you would think they were modern. One of these was it was an advertisement from a company called U.S. Confection Sugar Plums. And they were called Santa Claus Sugar Plums. And this was from, I believe it was 1886. And that Santa looked just like a modern Santa. He had the little red outfit and everything. And also there were two editions of a magazine called Puck. One was from 1902 and one was from 1905, I think. And I have both of them. One of them showed Santa and like this pretty lady like making out kind of like under mistletoe. And then the other one showed Santa with like two ladies. So he was like, getting jiggy with it. Of course. Like you did back in the 90s. And these look very, very modern. Like I was surprised when I saw them. And I couldn't believe like what year they were from. Because they look almost exactly like, they're really cool looking. They're like kind of Art Nouveau style. But they look exactly like, I mean, it was Fat Santa. He had the same outfit. He's got the little rosy cheeks and everything. So it's exactly the same. And again, like some of the other kind of weirder ones, I guess for a time, like in the early 19th century, like the 1920s and stuff, I guess illustrators kind of got sick of the sleigh for a little while. And because there was all this like, kind of everybody was kind of getting into sci-fi and like all these crazy like blimps and dirigibles and stuff. So I found this one illustration that was from this magazine called Science and Invention. And it was like, and I'll show that one too, but it's like this little boy sleeping in bed like he's having a dream. And in the dream, like there's a little Santa Claus that looks like a modern Santa Claus, except it's in black and white. And he's like in like a big, like a Hindenburg type of like, so they put him in like all these kind of like flying machines and stuff for a while. Yeah, because it was like futuristic. Yeah. So there was kind of like, there was kind of a,
how's he going to deliver all this?
Thing for doing that.
How's he going to deliver all these gifts in a single night? He's got to have a Zeppelin.
Or rocket sleigh.
Rocket sleigh, yeah.
So, yeah, there was some of him with like a hot air balloon and shit like that. And so, like I said, this thing about Coca-Cola inventing it. Now, the Coca-Cola company, beginning in the 1930s. So like I said, this conception of Santa Claus, it hadn't been exactly codified because there was a couple different like variations, but not real. I mean, there were a lot of illustrations of Santa Claus that looked like the modern conception of Santa Claus, like easily, almost 100 years before Coca-Cola started doing their very famous ads. So what happened in the 1930s, Coke was looking for a way. It's like, because I guess sales of Coke were slow during the wintertime, because I guess it was more people associated with more with summer or whatever. So they said, okay, well, we need some kind of big campaign to like make people buy Coke during the wintertime. So they hired this guy who was a commercial illustrator, and his name was Hayden Sundblom. And he actually, taking as inspiration the very famous A Visit from St. Nicholas poem, and he drew a whole series of ads featuring Santa Claus doing various, like, bringing kids Coke for Christmas, or, drinking Coke on his route because he was worn out or whatever. And, very famously, and I don't even know what this means, but like the fucking ad tagline was "the pause that refreshes." Like pause, like paw, like not like animal paws, but you know what I mean? I was like, the pause that, what does that mean? I don't get it. 1930s. That wasn't that long ago. Come on now. What the fuck are you talking? Like, I get that it's kind of like, maybe like the Kit Kat, like, give me a break type of thing. It's maybe like a break in your day. You just like, you're taking a pause, like drink a Coke, and it's like, that was refreshing. And then you just go back to whatever shit you were doing. Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like a weird way of putting it, I guess.
Taking a pause?
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, because people wouldn't say it like that nowadays. They would say more like take a break or something like that.
Well, they probably didn't have break back then.
Maybe not.
Didn't have that.
Maybe that's not.
They just didn't have that word. Probably.
It's like, I guess the more I think about it, it makes sense, but it still sounds.
Because a break was physically, breaking.
It sounds like a very like
taking
clunky.
A pause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was probably, now what people have and I think where maybe the urban legend comes about that Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus was because they said, well, maybe because newspapers were still black and white, they didn't have any color comics or color illustrations. The papers, magazines did, but newspapers, they didn't. They didn't really have like a lot of color, movies or anything like that, So, the movies were black and white. So they said it could be that more people saw these Coke ads, and that helped to kind of solidify the image in people's minds, because that was like what they saw most commonly. But, I don't think it can be said in any meaningful sense that Coca-Cola invented that image of Santa, because even several years before those ads came out, there were other advertisements, there were other illustrations that looked like our modern conception of Santa.
So Coca-Cola came out with this in the 1930s?
1930s, yeah.
Okay, well, you have to understand something. The 1930s was a time in the United States of great demographic expansion.
Yeah.
And a great time of expansion. This is where you start having skyscrapers, you start having theaters, you start having what you would call today the media.
Yeah.
So it could be the first time you have Santa Claus in full living color all throughout the United States, all at the same time, would have been in the 30s. So it could have been Coca-Cola was the corporate force you needed to have to kind of unveil
make that a widespread
on a
thing.
National level. That's probably why they're saying that.
Yeah. So I think that's where the legend came from. It's not so much that Coca-Cola invented that look, because that had been around for a long time.
Coca-Cola delivered that.
More people saw it, and it helped to codify
it as what it was.
It in the culture as that's what Santa was supposed to look like.
Right. And Coca-Cola was vast. It was a vast empire. They were they were delivering these glass bottles of Coca-Cola everywhere to even little small towns in the South, which meant that they would have been delivering full color posters,
full
color merch. You know what I mean? They had these big round metal shields that they would put out in front of fucking gas stations that were colored. So, probably the first time your average fucking little podunk out in a little town, the first time they saw a professional rendition, full-color rendition of Santa Claus
was a
Christmas,
Coke ad.
might have had something to do with Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
That's probably what they're talking about.
Because, like I said, there were examples before that, and like I said, I will show them in the show, like
But
a lot
not
of magazines.
corporate examples.
But maybe not as widespread.
Right.
Because maybe, like, out in the sticks, no one was reading Harper's Weekly or, Puck or whatever the magazines were that had these illustrations in them, like, for the past, several decades. And there were a couple of other, like, little variations, maybe.
In the 1930s, Coca-Cola would have been nothing to fuck with.
Yeah.
They would have been a vast corporate empire. They would have had the ability to deliver a good Christmas advertising campaign.
Well, the illustrations, the Sunblom illustrations are very nice, are very beautiful.
So that's probably what they're talking about.
And like I said, if you look at them today, it's, clearly that's where... And I can understand why people thought that Coca-Cola was the one that came up with that look. They didn't. I mean,
they just delivered it.
Yeah, he was just using what other people had come up with it. And I don't even think one person even came up with it. It was kind of like, it was like a syncretism type of thing, where it's kind of like, they took little bits from...
zeitgeist.
Yeah, they took a little bit from St. Nicholas. They took a little bit from the poem. They took a little bit from Washington Irving. They took a little bit from this and that and the other. And that's just kind of like what came about.
And it makes sense because red and white are Coca-Cola's colors.
Well, that's what they liked about it.
So Coca-Cola logically would have had a massive Christmas fucking advertising campaign.
Yeah.
That's probably what they're talking about.
Yeah. And like I said, Santa was wearing red before that, like even in the 19th century.
Coca-Cola said, that's our
man.
But
that's our colors, so it's like, that's going to go together.
Right.
Now, I did see, like, there were some older ones, like, from maybe the early 19th century, a couple of times that I saw, like, Santa was wearing, like, green, like the Green Man or something like that. But most of the illustrations I saw were actually pretty modern. He usually had red or some variation of red or like a gold type of color. A couple of them had like red and black and stuff like that, but that you would still recognize it as Santa Claus, you know what I mean? So,
well, when you think about it, it's a brown drink. It's carbonated. It's kind of caramel. It's cool, but it's refreshing. That's kind of a Christmas flavor.
Yeah.
Think about it.
I guess you could say that.
Because tropical flavors are not Christmas flavors.
Well, no.
It's always something that's spicy.
Yeah.
Or something that's candy-like caramel or... Peppermint or...
Yeah.
So, I could see why somebody in the Coca-Cola Corporation would see that fat man in that red and white suit and go, we could piggyback a product right on that.
Well, yeah, especially because they were looking for, like, a big campaign to happen around that time period because... There was like sales slump during the winter.
Right.
Not as many people bought Coke during the winter time.
And then you sell Coca-Cola as a traditional force. It's very American. It's very European. It's kind of religious. It's, you know what I mean? It's your duty to buy Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Buying Coca-Cola is unifying America. It's like a gift.
I think I have I have a World War I propaganda poster that had Santa on it too.
Yeah.
I'll have to find that. I'm pretty sure I put that in my folder to put in the show.
Well, America, the United States is a vast country. And think of how vast it would have seemed to be back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And the ability to deliver a single uniform product to every corner of the American territory simultaneously would be a unifying moment.
Yeah.
Today you take that shit for granted, but not back then.
Yeah.
You had to have a railroad, you had to have mass communication, you had to have theaters,
It's just funny how much of that we take for granted.
We take all that shit for granted now.
Because it's just like, obviously.
It's obvious that you could... But no, to supply America simultaneously everywhere, you have to be a fucking vast empire.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like a demonstration of your corporate power.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah.
Think about it. All those posters you have to print. All those bottles you have to make.
Yeah.
You have to deliver them everywhere.
Yeah.
So
it's a huge undertaking.
It's a huge undertaking.
Even nowadays, it's a huge undertaking.
And to get it done, and then the Americans are seeing it. No matter what town you go to, you see those same advertisements. You see those same bottles. Everybody knows what that Coca-Cola tastes like. It always tastes the same every time you open up that bottle. That's like magic.
Yeah.
That's like the man walking on the moon.
In some ways, when you think about it, it's like, yeah, you take it for granted nowadays. And it's like, even when you think about it nowadays, like all the shit that's involved, it's still difficult. But thinking about it back then, how much of a bigger pain in the ass, but everything was a bigger pain in the ass back then.
Yeah,
everything
and
is so
you're talking
easy
about the 30s.
Yeah.
When a lot of things are still kind of semi-handmade.
Yeah.
You have a first corporate product that can be everywhere at once. That's a big deal. So, yeah. That's a big deal. So I can understand why people think that maybe there's a leftover idea that maybe Coca-Cola invented.
They invented it. I don't think Christmas. I don't think I would argue the point that they maybe popularized it widely. Yeah. Like that image of Santa Claus, but they did not invent it. And like I said, that's demonstrable fact because, like I said, I found numerous examples from like 100 years before that.
I wouldn't say popularized the image of Santa Claus. I think more like they kind of corporatized the image of Santa Claus. They made it official.
Yeah, like this is what he's supposed to look like. This is
what Santa Claus looks like.
Yeah.
Because we're the Coca-Cola company and we're so fucking powerful. Because what they're doing is kind of like the 1930s. Kind of like the 1930s version of fucking stepping foot on the moon.
Yeah.
You know, this is... McDonald's hadn't even existed then.
Yeah, they didn't start till the 50s, did they?
Yeah, and then that was a big deal that a single restaurant could be everywhere and deliver you the exact same
food wherever you
were. Over and over, no matter where you were, it tasted exactly the same.
That still kind of freaks me out, honestly.
And that's part of the selling of McDonald's is the uniformity that you can trust that it always tastes the fucking same.
Yeah, because it's like you can be in Timbuktu and just be like going to McDonald's and the shit tastes exactly the same.
It tastes the same fucking hamburger. And it's that comforting feeling of like the official hamburger. Even though it's not great.
Yeah.
It's just like the baseline.
Well, that's the weird thing about it. And I think we were talking about this a little bit the other day. It's like, no one's going to argue that like McDonald's is like gourmet food or nothing like that. But it's like every now and then, sometimes, it's like you just want that.
That
it's like,
hamburger, right.
Yeah, it's like, it's not the best hamburger. And obviously you can make a better one at your house. Yeah. Probably anyone could.
Sometimes I just want a goddamn Big Mac.
But sometimes you just want that. Well, it's just like the same thing. It's like sometimes it's like I know their fish fillet sandwich is kind of gross, but sometimes you want that fish fillet. But sometimes you want that particular one. Just
with the hot fucking tartar sauce on it. Yeah, it got heated up a little bit in the damn lettuce.
Yeah,
and that soft bun.
It's like I know it's gross, but it
always
it's like
tastes the fucking same.
Every now and then I want like some chicken nuggets with like fucking sweet and sour sauce on them.
And it's kind of comforting. It's kind of comforting that it's the same.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine...
You know what you're going to get.
So I'd imagine probably in the United States, that first feeling would have come from the Coca-Cola company. That it's always the same.
Yeah.
Like it comes from heaven. All the bottles...
It all comes from heaven.
It comes from heaven. All the bottles are exactly the same shape.
Just open it and it's okay.
Open it, it's exactly the same.
You know exactly
it's like
what you're going to get.
Because they're not dealing with air conditioning or anything like that in those houses. Hot as fuck.
Yeah.
And it's that damn bottle, that pretty ass bottle with all the angles. Remember how those glass bottles used to look? And they were small.
Yeah.
When we were kids,
They've kind of brought those back to an extent.
And they would be cold. And you could open it up and it would have that exact same fizzy taste.
Yep.
So I would imagine that's the first sensation of kind of homogeneity.
Yeah.
That they had. You could count on it.
Yeah.
It was like it came from another dimension. Everything else was handmade.
Yeah, and it's like,
it was like could be good, it could be good,
could be bad.
Right.
You never know what you're going to get.
You never really know.
It's a crapshoot.
Right. Even though a lot of that shit from the 30s, when you see it was kind of semi-handmade, was fucking exquisitely made. A lot of the stuff that I've seen.
Well, yeah, they knew what they were doing, man. It's like, it's, and I can see that. There's a time and a place for both things. Like I said, sometimes I want like a good hamburger, like a homemade, like one you made.
Yeah.
Or, that's really good. But then sometimes you just want
a Big Mac in that damn.
You just want a quarter pounder with cheese, man. Yeah, it's like just specifically that. You want specifically
out of that styrofoam container.
Out of the, well, it's not even styrofoam.
It's not styrofoam, it's paper now.
Well, now they're like that paper cardboard.
Yeah, paper cardboard now.
For a while they went to paper, and that seemed awful messy, but it's like, I kind of like the little recycled boxes they have now.
Remember the McDLT?
I used to love that shit.
And then the QLT?
I don't remember the QLT. I do remember McDLT because I used to like that. I was like, you like the hot stuff on one side and cold on. It seemed like to make perfect sense to me. And then like you can put it together later, so you weren't getting like all that cross contamination with the cold and the hot.
I'm still a huge fan of the fucking McRib.
A lot of people like those.
McRib needs to be on there all the time.
No, because then no one would give a shit.
Yeah, it's only when it's a special occasion that people go.
I think, well, in a way, like, I think that's one of the smartest marketing decisions they ever made was to, like, just make that a big special thing because now, every time McRib is, like, on the menu, everybody loses their shit.
Yeah, I lose my shit over a McRib.
That's what I mean. Well, see, everyone does. They know what they're doing. And it's like, if it was on there all the time, everybody would be like, they would eat it for a while and then they'd be like, man, this isn't really that good. And then they wouldn't sell anymore.
It seems like it only comes like once every 2 years.
And I can't remember the last time it's like I don't really like them, so
I like McRib.
I don't know. I don't like them, but I'm not a big barbecue person.
Yeah.
I don't really like barbecue sauce
the onions
a lot. Yeah. But I can't remember the last time the McRib was
onions and pickles.
I mean, it's like I don't see a lot of advertising and stuff, but you'd think that when the McRib was out, I mean, they usually put it on all the billboards and shit, like on the side of
I lose my shit over the Shamrock Shake, too. I see that shit and just fucking lose it.
Do they still do the Shamrock Shake?
I haven't seen a Shamrock Shake in a long time. They used to keep bringing that thing back.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mint shake.
Is it mint?
Kind of, yeah. I think it was kind of a minty blue or a minty green.
It was green, obviously.
Minty green shake. It was.
Mint. I don't think I ever had one.
Shamrock.
I was always kind of like, I love mint, but I was always kind of like grossed out by them for some reason.
Fucking love a Shamrock Shake.
I don't think I ever had one.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna get a milkshake, I'm going to Steak and Shake, man, and getting a real one. But
Well, no, there's just something. It's just like anything else. You know what I mean? Like a Shamrock Shake is not the best shake.
Yeah.
But it is a Shamrock Shake.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
TM.
Almost... TM.
Yeah. And sometimes you just want that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to, let me see. Hell, yeah.
Probably about time to take a break.
Yeah, we should. I have like so much more shit that we can talk about. I might take more than one break. Maybe
What are we at? What are we at?
Hour and a half.
Okay, yeah, let's take a break.
So, so I might take like several breaks so we can put like extra like Christmas kitty videos and shit like that in there. So we're going to take a break right now to refill drinks, go to the restroom, go find our wayward cat, and various other things. And when we come back, we're going to talk about all kind of different stuff. Scandinavian elves, Hans Trapp. We're going to talk about some terrible family massacres that happen on Christmas. Yeah. It's so cheerful, you guys. It's the cheerful time of the season. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Oh, hey Pookie, you're under the tree. Yeah, you being a Christmas cookie? Yeah, you don't care, do you? It's nice under there, though. You can pretend you're outside.
All right, we're back after the break. Tom refilled his drink.
Yeah, what I'm drinking right now, of course, is becoming all the rage on Tom Chitty's movies. That's my Facebook group. Tom Shitty Movie, SHIDDY movies. And what this is that Summit Gridlock. That's the
stuff you get at Aldi.
The Aldi's energy drink. And Gridlock is kind of like their version of, it's kind of like Red Bull Citrus.
Yeah.
It's kind of tastes a little bit like Mountain Dew in a way. But I'm using that with silver tequila and a splash of lime. And that's fucking good. And it's only like $1 for a really big can of
it's like half the price. That was the first...
1/3 the price.
Yeah.
1/3 the price of Red Bull.
That's the first time we've been to I'd been hearing about Aldi. Like, I know what Aldi is, but I don't think I'd ever actually been to one. So we actually just went to one last night because we were just like, we went to the movies and we were just like kind of dicking around and
Gridlock comes in a green can. It's got a green plus on it. It seems to be the least favorite flavor.
But that was the one that you liked the most because it tastes like citrus and you can mix it with tequila.
It seems to be the least favorite one. It's the one that
all the other flavors
will sell
were
out.
gone.
And Gridlock will stay right there. But that's the one you want for tequila.
What are they? They're like 99 cents for like a fairly large can.
Big ass can.
Whereas the Red Bull ones, the can's like this big.
Yeah, they want like $3 for that.
Well, yeah, because there's 4 of them in a pack, and the pack is
Citrus.
what, like
$11
or something like that? It's some ridiculous price.
Yeah, too expensive.
Fucking Red Bull.
And really,
I don't like Red Bull, so
yeah, Gridlock. That green Gridlock drink is the can's black and green. It's kind of like Monster, I guess. It's different than Red Bull Citrus. Similar but different. It's not quite as tart, a little bit sweeter. But I think it tastes better. I think it mixes with silver tequila a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Want to try it?
Nah, I don't like
Okay,
it.
she doesn't like tequila.
I don't like tequila. But it's like, yeah, but it's like, I think that's the first time I'd ever been in Aldi. Seriously, we went in Aldi, I think we spent $29 and we got all kind of shit. We got, I got like all kind of yogurt. I got like a big thing of apples. I got like a big thing of like Christmas bows.
Yeah.
We got all kind of stuff.
Yeah, it kind of had
We got like 40 hash browns.
Yeah. I got a big old fucking thing of hash browns. Big old fucking thing of frozen hash brown patties for like $4. I got like a dozen eggs for 99 cents per dozen.
Yeah, because I love eggs. I gotta have eggs around all the time.
Yeah.
Because I always have like hard-boiled eggs.
The packaging is more effeminate looking than American packaging. American packaging is like something of an idiocracy. It's fucking bright.
Hey, stupid, buy this.
Hey, dumbass, fucking, this is what you're looking for. All these packaging is all European. It's all
like
subtle.
buy this if you want to.
Subtle
nice
flavors, subtle colors, and very subtle and effeminate. It's like we're not trying to offend you. You know what I mean? So we're going to put pastel colors.
It's not so much that. I feel like, I mean, I don't know about nowadays, but like, I remember when I was in the UK, it's like, but I'm saying like the British people I met, like they fucking loved Americans and they thought it was like super, they loved me and they wanted to listen to me talk and stuff, even though I was really self-conscious about it. But, they do have a perception, or they did then, of like just Americans just being very loud and just being just really loud and obnoxious and
fucking bright colors too.
Yeah, and I think that extends to, but that's not true of everything because I mean I design packaging, for a living, but it depends on
what it is.
On what it is,
yeah.
It depends on what it is because a lot of times, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I design packaging for, they are trying to appeal to a particular demographic, and if you're trying to appeal to a particular demographic,
they like
you don't,
things,
you don't necessarily want it to look like Brondo. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Brondo. Americans like shit that looks like Brondo.
Well, men do.
Yeah.
Because I design stuff. It's
got to have claw marks on it. It's got to have flames on it. It's got to have fucking like
claw
biceps
marks with flames in it.
Titties on it. It's got to have like titties.
Now you're making me want to design like the ultimate man package. It's just like, I don't even know what product it would be for.
Yeah.
But, it would be like some kind of energy drink or something like that called like fucking,
We're not talking about natural boobs. We're talking about fucking implants.
Well, it wouldn't be like natural
about,
boobs.
we're going to talk about...
That's not good enough.
No, fucking implants. Yeah.
So I'm just going to make it, it's going to be like black and red, and then it's going to have everything on it. It's going to have like an AK-47. It's going to have like big fake tits on. Like it'll just be like stuck all over it like that, and then it'll be the best-selling product with the male demographic.
Don't overthink it
in the whole history of the universe.
I'm telling you, people, don't overthink. Don't overthink this shit. When you start overthinking it, you lose money.
I remember one package that I did. I remember one package that I did that was for one of those like fucking, you remember there was kind of a big rage for those like as seen on TV, like those metal hoses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not pocket hose.
Tell them about pocket hose. Tell them about pocket hose.
But I designed a package for that, and like the guy was very specific that he wanted it to be very dudely. Yeah. So it's like black, red, metallic letters with like, the italics, so it looks like it's racing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's like people are into that. Yeah, so this was like several years ago, right? So we're in Walgreens.
Yeah.
And right there by like the checkout.
Yeah.
Where they put it's a box.
Yeah.
And it says on it, pocket hose.
Yeah. And it's a hose that fucking like folds up.
That wasn't the first thing that I thought
of. Pocket hose. And Jenny shows it to me.
I'm like,
look, it's a pocket hose. And I go, well, shit, I got one of those.
That's like immediately.
And the fucking checkout girl fucking laughed her ass
because
off.
We weren't even really talking to her. It's just like, this is the conversations that we have all the time. Because, of course, I saw it and I thought it was funny. Because, I thought of a dick, obviously, as you would. And so I was like, look, Tom, it's a pocket hose. And he immediately just comes back and says, oh, man, I got one of those. Big deal. And then, like, the girl behind the scene just fucking cracked up. It's like, that was a long time ago. Yeah. It's like, I still am not entirely sure what that is. What is a pocket hose? I mean, I know
what pocket hose is a garden hose.
Well, I know it's a garden, but what does it do?
Soft fabric. So it was real long, but you could
squish it down.
Squish it down to small. Which I got one of them.
put in your pocket.
I think it's down
if
in your
you
pocket.
were into that.
And I got one.
And then you could just whip it out.
You pull that shit out. Shit expands.
And you could whip people with it.
Yeah. When shit starts flowing, it straightens out.
I have to say that whoever named it that was a genius.
They knew what they were doing. They were fucking.
I mean, I didn't buy it or anything, but it's like I noticed it.
They knew what they were. But you know what's funny?
Tell me.
No, we did end up getting one, remember?
I didn't buy a pocket hose. What are you talking about? I didn't buy a pocket hose.
It wasn't under that name, but we ended up with a garden hose that was kind of like that. It was just called something else.
I didn't buy it. I wasn't there.
It didn't last long. They don't last long.
Well, the thing is, I work for, I'm not going to say who it is, but I work for a client who, and I guess a lot of companies do this, but there are particular, and especially with like as seen on TV products, where, they kind of all buy them from the same manufacturer.
Yeah, and they rename them.
But they all they all want new boxes and new names and stuff like that. So it's the same product essentially, but it's sold under a bunch of different names.
Yeah.
So
they rebrand everything.
Yeah. So basically, what he would do is he would send me a box like of the package, and he's like, "I'm selling this product, but under this name, and I want like different pictures," and he would take pictures and stuff like that to put on the box.
Yeah, it all comes out of China anyway. Like they even have this in like fucking health food and like bodybuilding stuff. Like just the other day, I bought some generic creatine, and it comes in a fucking package. It's just a nice package. Or that metallic bag, kind of like the ones you do for the fucking
for the tea,
for healing butterfly. Just like that. But some people get that stuff and they rebrand it. And they're rebranding it and they're selling it for cheaper than you would get if it was like a fucking designer brand. And I bought like 2 pounds of fucking creatine, which is like a year's worth of it. It's just a nutritional supplement. And it said on it, pharmaceutical grade creatine. And Jenny, I'm kind of a dumbass. I'm not a spelling Nazi or anything. I just accepted that shit. Jenny goes, "Look, they misspelled pharmaceutical." I
immedially saw that.
Yeah, and I was like, "What?" And I didn't take an offense to it because I understand what rebranding is all about because
I do too because I do it.
Yeah, because she does it. So I was just like, "Yeah, the motherfuckers didn't have spell check, did they?"
Or it's like they have spell check, they just didn't use it.
Yeah.
I've done that too. It's like, you know what I mean? I don't usually misspell things because, like I said, I'm kind of, but yeah, I know. Well, I noticed it like immediately. I noticed people spelling mistakes like immediately.
She's a spelling Nazi.
I am a little bit, yeah. Well, I try not to make spelling or grammatical errors, but I do sometimes anyway, like just if I'm not paying attention, but I try not to because I'm like really, really anal retentive about that. I don't know why. But yeah, so... That and there's like it sounds like deceptive, but it's not really. It's just like everyone gets the products from the same.
It's a huge
manufacturer.
Factory. Yeah, all these fucking products come out of these huge factories,
and you just like package it with your own.
Those factories sell it to other companies that market it.
Yeah,
so they'll buy it by the ton, and then they fucking put it in different packages. They even ask can you put this in it or that in it to get certain flavors.
Yeah, it's like it's not always
it's not all exactly
the same across the board because it's like I've heard like you can do that like like with tea, you can do it with perfumes,
right?
You can do it with cosmetics. You can say I want this in it but not that. I want this color, that color, whatever, and they'll make it for you.
Yeah, and the factory will make it for you,
and then you have a designer do the packaging. You come up with the name and the copy that you want,
and it's your product.
Yeah. But it's personalized to an extent, but like I said,
you didn't make it. They did.
Yeah, they just made it to your specifications, or sometimes, in the case of another client that I work there, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, and
product,
and everything's like it. Everything's like that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of difference between.
You go down to you buy some fucking Frosted Flakes from Kellogg's, right? Well, guess what? All those other cereals are made in that goddamn same fucking factory. It's just that factory executes Kellogg's. It executes all these other types of fucking cereals. But some of them are kind of like, if you say like you could go to Aldi's and see an off-brand. Like we saw an off-brand of Lucky Charms.
Yeah.
They called it something else.
Well, it was just called something very matter-of-fact.
Stars and Shamrocks.
Stars and Marshmallows. Or
Stars
something
and
like
Marshmallows.
That.
And I'm looking at it, and it's got a fucking dude who's kind of like a leprechaun on it. Guess what?
Leprechaun adjacent.
Yeah, guess what? That was probably made in the exact same factory, and it's that exact same shit.
Even if they're not, it's like I always
different shape, and it's got a different fucking box.
I always suspected that like the big corporations that had the big bucks, It's like they would get made in the good, in the good thing. And then there'd be like the basement facility where like all the sweepings and stuff went, where they still made kind of the same stuff, but that was like where the shitty stuff from there that wasn't good enough and like it fell down to the bottom. Not always though, because I've bought some stuff that was like generic or store brand. Like look at Publix, the grocery store. Their store brands
it's better than a lot
are good and are actually like better than a lot of like name brand stuff. I have found.
Publix ice cream is better than almost every
than pretty much
brand.
Every other major brand, I think, except maybe Breyers.
Yeah,
but
on par.
Yeah, it's just as good as Breyers, I think.
And my favorite brand was Bluebell. Bluebell had fucking really high standards. I mean, their ice
they still do.
Their ice cream is really good, but like, you put Bluebell up against fucking Publix store brand ice cream, and
it's pretty close, man.
Yeah, it's both good.
The Publix one that has like
the
those
Publix will be about $2
mint Girl
cheaper.
Scout cookies in there. That shit's really good.
Yeah,
of course, if you put mint Girl Scout cookies,
and then Publix makes frozen yogurt and sherbet. They have their own dairy where they make everything. Yeah,
they don't have a name for it. It's not like how like Sam's has like Members Choice or Members Mark or whatever their brand name is. Publix just sells everything under Publix.
Yeah.
It's just the Publix brand.
That shit stands on its own. Everything they make, all their shit is good.
That's what I mean. So I think that's kind of why they don't feel the need to like name it something else, because it's like Publix is a pretty well regarded brand.
Yeah.
In the Southeast United States.
Yeah.
So they don't really feel the need to go, oh, well, it's our product, but we'll name it something else to kind of give it one level of
you can go in there
distance.
You can go in there and get a big-ass jar of, like, say, Publix ketchup.
Yeah.
Right? And it comes in a squeeze bottle and everything, just like Hunt's and Heinz. It'll be like $2 or $3 cheaper, and it's better.
Yeah,
it's
either better or just the same.
Or Heinz, or it's better or the same.
I have no qualms at all about buying anything that because they have a version of pretty much everything you can buy in their stores that they make, and I can't remember a single time when I bought something a store brand that wasn't good.
Yeah.
Or that wasn't at least as good as the name brand or better.
We are plugging the fuck out of Publix.
No, I'm just saying. It's like
I'll tell you what, if you want a good sub sandwich, Publix Deli.
They have the best.
Their sandwiches are fucking awesome.
Like I said, if you live in the South, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And particularly, my favorite is the roast beef on the multigrain.
Yeah, that multigrain bread.
Man, I love that shit.
Because
now I want one.
You go, and it's like $5, $5 and something cents. You'll get like a 20-inch damn sandwich.
Well, they're footlongs I think the footlongs are $6.29.
Is that what it is? It's a footlong. It feels like it's bigger.
Well, because they put a lot. They put a lot.
It feels like it's bigger. But
I thought it would be bigger.
Yeah, I thought it would be bigger. Man, it seems like it's
you and your pocket hose.
And then all that fucking meat that they pack in that goddamn thing. It's better than And I did time in Boston. There's a lot of good delis there and a lot of good sandwiches, and they call them grinders and shit.
Yeah.
No, fucking Publix grocery store. Their deli inside that grocery store is one of the best sandwiches.
All the shit from their deli is
better
good.
Than New York, better than Boston.
All their fried chicken is good.
Yeah.
Like you can get fried chicken in the deli.
Yeah.
It's like all their Publix branded meat, but their subs are like amazing.
Yeah.
Their subs are really good. I don't know what it is.
Orlando is not a fucking podunk town. All right? Fucking all the rich people from New York all have houses here. This is their fucking vacation homes and shit. And I'm telling you, I've been in New York. I lived in Boston for many years. You can eat better in Orlando than you can in New York or Boston for a lot less. It's just fucking good here. Real good.
Yeah, there are like a lot of different types of restaurants. Maybe not as many as somewhere in New York like that, but it's getting like a lot better. You can, if you drive around, you can find.
We got some of the best
shit
Indian foods in the restaurant. We got some of the best Indian restaurants in the fucking country. And when you go there, it's nothing but Indian people eating in them. It's good.
Yeah.
Buffets are fucking great.
But definitely, I was going to say, Publix sub sandwiches are good. Also, everything I've ever had from the Publix bakery is good.
Yeah.
Like, we get birthday cakes from there pretty much every year.
Tarts that are like the size of a quarter.
Yeah.
We just had one of those. Those were
that was Publix?
That was Publix, yeah.
Man, that was delicious.
It was fucking good.
I know, it was just in between, like when we took a break, when I was saving the file and everything.
Little tarts.
And caramel corn and we're like snacking in between. There goes the diet.
We've been drinking.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
That's another bad thing about it. Not only will drinking make you fat, but drinking also kind of makes you like...
Makes you break your diet.
It makes you hungry and it like makes you lose your inhibitions and you're just like, man, I want some
That means
pancakes.
ranch it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, give me
Over
that.
the next couple of days, I got to start cooking up all that fucking
Yeah, like I said,
cornbread.
We're doing the Thanksgiving
Yeah.
part 2 Electric Boogaloo we're doing for Christmas.
I have to
So.
cook up cornbread to make the cornbread stuffing.
Oh, we're not cheating like we
not-
did on Thanksgiving where we just bought the shit in the
No,
bag.
I'm making real cornbread this
It
time.
was just 2 of us, man. We had like so much shit.
I'm gonna make real cornbread this time.
Oh man.
I
Okay.
wasn't totally satisfied. It was okay. But
I didn't notice much difference, but I hadn't had any for like a year, so I don't really know.
It wasn't quite as good. So I got the real cornbread mix.
Okay. Well, that's
Make
fair.
that jiffy cornbread.
Yeah, no,
But I'm gonna put real cornmeal in it probably too.
That's what
We'll
my
see.
grandma
We'll
always
see.
used. So we always had like several boxes of that Jiffy cornbread
Yeah.
mix like in the fucking cupboard.
It makes good stuffing.
It does actually.
It's not good cornbread.
It's
but
no,
good
it's not.
stuffing.
It's I mean that's kind of a lot of the times what we had growing up, just because it was easy
It's cheap, yeah.
and cheap. It's only what is it like fucking 8? It might
Yeah.
still only be 89 cents for like a little box of like the mix, but that's mostly what we had.
Real Mississippi cornbread is like eating sand.
It is. It's very
coarse.
very, very,
Very, very
coarse,
coarse,
and
very, very dry.
gritty.
If you don't live outside the South, the deep South, like we came up in, these motherfuckers don't know what cornbread is. They know their cornbread is corn cake.
It's sweet. Yeah, there's a lot of sugar in
sweet
it.
and it's light.
But
and fluffy.
cornbread,
That is
like,
not
it's
cornbread.
Not really. It's not really that sweet.
Cornbread is fucking only about that high, about 1.5 inches high. It's heavy and it's very dry and very coarse and very gritty. But that's just the real thing. You have to know what to eat that with. It crackles and crunches when you're eating it.
Well, and the thing about it is that, it's one of those things where it's like you have to grow up with it. Like,
Yeah.
otherwise, if you come to it later, you're just kind of like,
You're
"Ew,
what are you
gross."
doing? Yeah.
It's kind of like grits.
It's like grits. You have to fucking understand grits. From
Well,
early
and
days.
grits, too, it's like, even people in the South don't necessarily eat grits plain. Because just plain,
Yes, there's nothing to it.
they're not good.
You gotta have
You gotta, like, put
red-eye
shit...
gravy at least, or
Yeah.
you fully load that bitch with cheese and fucking
And
ham
butter and bacon
butter and
and-
fucking bacon. Yeah. A grit,
I just liked it with like a shit ton of butter in it, honestly.
grits are the
and
reason.
salt.
Grits are the reason for obesity and fucking cholesterol problems and everything in the South and diabetes. It's grits.
Among other things.
Among, and
Well,
all
among-
the, and all
among
the other
everything
shit,
else that
among
they
all the
eat.
other shit that they
Pretty
fucking
much all of the Southern food. Well, because I mean,
Yeah.
even when I was growing up, it's like you pretty much cooked everything in bacon fat or
Yeah.
lard.
Well, we don't do that anymore, but
No, but back when I was growing up, they did.
yeah.
You always had like a big jar of bacon fat
Yeah.
next to like in the kitchen, and you cooked everything. You cooked every morning. You would have fried eggs, and you would cook them in bacon fat. So they cooked everything. In
My dad, one of the reasons why they had to damn take his heart out and put all those valves in
and then
there
put it back.
and put it back in
With
there
the turkey necks.
with all the turkey necks and shit, is that from day one there was bacon
deep cut.
fat in my dad's damn bottle.
Mm-hmm.
They'd put bacon fat in the fucking bottle.
Yeah.
So
That's
Southerners,
good for you.
Yeah, because it makes you big and fat. I guess it's healthy, make you healthy. That's what they used to think.
Well, yeah, because I think the
it's-
thing about it was that because my grandmother kind of had this mentality too. My grandmother was she, like I said, she lucked out in the genetic lottery. Like
Yeah.
she could just eat and eat and eat and not gain a pound. She was like weighed maybe 100 pounds like her entire life, and she was a little bitty skinny thing.
Yeah.
But like she was one of those people, and a lot of the people, like Southern people of that generation, were, if you weren't like at least kind of fat,
If you weren't a little overweight,
they thought there was something the matter.
wrong
Like,
with you,
what?
yeah.
Why aren't you eating? Like,
Yeah.
you would eat like one helping, and then you didn't really want
Yeah.
any more because you were full. They'd be like, "No, eat. Are you sick?"
Yeah.
They would just
So-
keep pushing food on you.
Southern people were slightly stocky and a little bit overweight.
Yeah.
The women tended to. They were, first of all, some of the most beautiful women in the United States actually came from the South. A lot of these fucking celebrities, Hollywood celebrities that you would see, actually have kind of a secret Southern background. A lot of them are Southern, but Southern women were actually some of the cutest women in the United States, and they were physically fit, voluptuous. In general, my dad's generation, until they got to about 35, then they were fucking heavy.
Then you pork out.
They started to pork
It'll
out.
catch up with
It'll
you.
catch up. But,
You can get away with that shit
Yeah.
for a little while.
but you know, there was a lot of South American people that were like that too, though, and a lot of Mexican people because of their diet.
Yeah.
Very heavy in pork fat.
Yeah.
And then they died. They didn't live very long.
Like I said,
but that's just the way it was.
I mean, if you're active when you're young, you can get away with it. But
as soon as that metabolism changes,
like I said, I did not luck out. It's like as soon as I hit puberty, I just started like gaining weight like a lot.
Yeah, with her, it's a constant battle.
It is. It's terrible, but it's because like I said, that's my mom's side of the family are all like that.
Yeah.
None of them are like heavy, but all of them are like, a little bit bigger, and to lose weight, they always have to like constantly dieting. And my mom was constantly dieting when I was growing up. I always remember she was going to Weight Watchers, like everything. And she would get kind of heavy, and then she'd be like, oh my God. And then she'd go to Weight Watchers, and then she'd lose a bunch of weight, and then it would go back on. And it's like, so it was like a whole.
They tend to be big titty women though. Southern girls tend to be fucking kind of big.
But it's my female, all my female relatives, my mom's side. Like I said, they're all built similar to me.
Yeah.
And they all have like the same kind of problems. Like I said, my dad's side of the family, my grandmother's very thin. Like all the women were very thin, even though they were from Tennessee and they ate everything in bacon fat and fucking moon pies and my grandmother.
Salted peanuts inside the RC Cola.
My grandmother drank Coca-Cola and coffee, and that was it. She did not drink water. She did not drink milk or juice or nothing. It was like, you know what I mean? She used to tease me because I would just drink water, and she'd say, oh, that'll rust your pipes.
Yeah.
She drank Coke. Every time she drank something, she drank Coke.
Mississippi.
And she never got fat.
I remember lots of fried chicken.
Yeah, we ate a lot of fried chicken.
Lots of fried chicken. It's an African-American diet, really, when you think about it. Lots of fried chicken. Lots of watermelon. They would fucking cut the corners of watermelon off.
I still love watermelon.
Pour tequila into it, or they would pour fucking vodka into it.
Yeah, vodka's better.
Vodka, or sometimes even fucking Jack Daniels into...
also good.
Pour that into watermelons, and then eat it outside.
Yep.
And these are people that a lot of times this was underage. They were doing it. They were kind of underage in the mixed crowd doing it because things like laws didn't matter. Who's going to enforce that? There weren't any cops. We were doing all kinds of cool shit. It was a different era.
Yeah,
It's not like that
nobody
now.
really had that much of a problem with contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
No.
Here, kid, have a beer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, because most kids drink it and be like, "What? They didn't want that."
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. So they didn't really worry that much about it.
Yeah. Laws didn't matter from what I remembered.
Not really.
No.
It's just it just seemed very, like I said,
It was all laid back.
Yeah, it wasn't so much like neglectful or anything like that. It was just that
was something that just wasn't thought about. This is 70s and early 80s.
Yeah. You were just kind of like, you went out to play and you were gone for many, many hours, and you would go out and set things on fire and shoot off
play
fireworks.
Play with gasoline, play with chainsaws, shotguns.
As long as you didn't kill anyone.
Like, go get the shotgun. And then you just you'd be shooting up shit.
Like I said, as long as you didn't kill anyone, it was fine. You know what I mean?
It was funny. And then the dogs would be with you and the animals.
The animal.
The animals and the dogs would be with you. We'd set fires out in the forest and swing through the fire.
I almost for a second I thought you were going to say you set fire to the dogs.
No. Never set fire to the dogs.
And then I was like, you better not be saying
Animal
that.
cruelty didn't exist in the South that I knew.
Well, it did, but nobody you knew did it.
Yeah. That was on.
I didn't know anybody that did it.
No, that was on. That would have been very. No, that was that.
Yeah, back then, if somebody would have done that, everyone
to a dog.
Like,
you'd be killed.
Yeah, everyone would be like, "What the fuck?"
To a dog or a cat? No, it sets you on fire if you hurt somebody's dog.
Rightfully,
dog
so.
were like children.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Well, like in a way, I think that's better because I think that attitude is like a lot more widespread nowadays.
Yeah.
Like we were just watching because somebody recommended, and we'll probably review this on the matinee show. But we were just watching that Netflix that 3-part series, "Don't Fuck with Cats," about fucking Luca Magnotta, who did the show. We talked about him on the Canadian Crime Show, and in a way, like I love that before he'd even killed a person, like just because that asshole put like the videos up of him killing those little kittens, and immediately like thousands of people on the internet said, "Oh, we're gonna find this fucking guy," and they did. And I was like, man, good for you. That's like the one time the internet is used for good. It's like, it's too bad somebody didn't find him and shoot him in the face before he killed a person.
As far back as I could remember, as far as Mississippi and the South went, pets were pets. There was a clear delineation between pet and game animal. But raccoons and possums were also pets. You know what I mean? I mean, you could kind of shoot those if you were on a hunt. But why would you? because there wasn't enough meat on them.
You can't eat them.
They're not. They don't taste.
They're not good.
They don't taste good, and unnecessary killing of the
because they're
animals.
scavengers.
They're a scavenger, and also the raccoons. There's just not enough meat on them, and they're kind of cute, and they do other things.
Well, they do like little people type.
They're the
things.
monkeys of Mississippi.
They have like little people
they
hands.
got little hands and shit.
And like they're kind of like, hey, please can I have some more? They're like that.
70s Mississippi, Luca Manata, they would have set that fucker on fire.
Like I said, rightfully so.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame nobody did this time, but it's like
what
they found. But the thing about it is like the people that found him, it's like, they told the police, they're like, hey, might want to check this guy out because probably he'll kill a person.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything, and the police didn't do anything, and he did kill a person. They're like, told you.
Setting a bitch on fire is something that kind of goes back through Mississippi culture, you know what I mean? It's a form of purification to set a motherfucker. That's why the Klan did it. You know what I mean? Because setting something on fire was to purify it.
Well, that goes way back. It goes
way back because it's a Christian type of thing. And Luca Mignata, what he did to those cats, and he fucking did to that Chinese guy, they'd have set him on fire back in the 70s.
Well,
they tied him up, set him on fire.
Like I said,
And then nobody would have said anything about it. And the cops would have been there setting him on fire.
I think if they would have done it now, I don't think anyone would have been bothered.
Set Luke on
been like,
fire.
They
said, boy, they would have gave a whole lecture. They would have fucking explained to him where he went wrong, and then they would have doused him with some kind of fucking flammable material and set him on fire.
Yeah. Well, like I said.
Yeah.
I don't blame, because the whole time I was watching that, I was just kind of.
And they'd be singing hymns and shit, and that's it. That's how that shit would have went down.
I mean, like I said, I'm not happy about you mentioning the Klan, but it's like, you know what I mean? Because that's
but the Klan did that because
because they had that
because it was a Baptist thing of that purification by fire.
Yeah,
but that's why they did it, and it's kind of a universal meme.
Yeah.
To purify by fire.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's because it's thought to like erase all.
To erase
it doesn't
evil.
really, but you know what I mean.
Well, that would
people have that perception.
That would erase some fucking evil, and in that case, a fucking Luca Mignata.
Well, yeah, it would. I'm just saying, like from a physical standpoint, it doesn't erase everything. So let's talk about elves. You want to talk about elves?
Yeah. Okay.
He doesn't care.
Okay.
So here's something that I found. Like I said, we did a show a couple Christmases ago about Christmas-like creatures, but I didn't cover a lot of different ones. And I kind of found these interesting. I guess they're more like, they kind of became associated with Santa Claus in the sense they're more like gnomes, really. But this is from Scandinavian folklore. And I found this on a Scandinavian folklore site, and I just thought this was delightful. So these little creatures, now in Norway, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing this wrong, but in Norway, they are called nisse or nisse. And in Sweden, they are called tomte. But they're basically the same thing. They're like these little guys. It's kind of like gnomes. It's like they're little bitty people, and they have like little beards, and they have like little pointy red hats. And what they are is they're kind of like little domestic sprites. And they live in your house or on your farm, and they take care of your farm, and they take care of your house. Like, they clean up your house, they take care of your animals.
So like gremlins, but the reverse of a gremlin.
Kind of, but they're like little people.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, the word tomte means, and like I said, forgive me, like any Scandinavian peoples, if I am pronouncing these wrong, because I'm sure I am. Tomte means homestead man. So he's the little guy that lives in your house. Nisse comes from the name Nils, which is actually the Scandinavian form of Nicholas, Saint Nicholas, which is probably why these little guys became associated with Christmas later on. So they're, like I said, they take care of like the house. Mostly like they kind of live in the barn. They take care of the farm animals. They will work really hard, but they do not like anyone kind of like messing with them, like messing with their work or like interfering with what they're doing. Now they do all this sort of, I was going to say out of the goodness of their hearts, but not really. But they don't ask for much from the people. All they want from the people whose houses and farms they keep, they want to be like respected and trusted. Also, on Christmas, you have to give them a bowl of Christmas porridge or julegrot, because this is their favorite thing. However, You can't just give them any old bowl of Christmas porridge. It has to have butter on it. And if it doesn't have butter on it, you are in for a world of hurt.
You got to put butter on. I understand the butter dynamic. Yeah. We are not a margarine house. This house buys butter by the pound.
We do.
You can tell them, Jenny.
Big, huge things
salted and unsalted.
Yeah. Okay. Well, because you need them for different applications.
For different applications. Sure. I love butter.
Yeah.
And don't let anybody butter shame you. Okay? Butter is actually a lot more healthy for you than margarine. The whole margarine fucking and the butter being dangerous.
I mean, as long as you don't eat whole sticks.
Just don't eat
stuff.
Yeah, you got to be reasonable about it. You know what I mean? But the whole butter is bad for you type deal was a margarine sales tactic. They're just trying to sell you margarine. That's what they're trying. But there's nothing wrong with butter.
I don't mind either one. Like, I will eat margarine. I will eat butter. I even sometimes get that I can't believe it's not butter, like Fabio used to sell, that just
it is low calorie
because it's a lot lower calorie. Like, because I'll just spray a couple on my toast and it tastes like butter, but it's not like 40 million calories.
Yeah.
But
that's the only thing with the.
If I didn't have to worry about calories, I would just pretty much just eat butter.
Butter has a lot of calories
at all times. It does. It's very fatty.
But it will not.
But it's delicious.
It will not clog your arteries like people say. Pork fat will.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of difference between pork fat and butter.
Yeah.
Just make sure you drink some wine or eat some peanuts, and you know what I mean. That every now and then that'll help.
Or wine and peanuts.
Wine and peanuts, and that
wine with peanuts in it.
Yeah, it'll help. it'll help you kind of break down the cholesterols and stuff in butter. But butter is actually nice. Good for you.
Well, yeah, because this is something that's always mystified me.
Yeah.
And if perhaps any of you that have grown up in France can let me know.
Yeah.
So in France, I don't know, like maybe there's a thing where it's like, you know, I know in Europe they walk more, you know, it's like the portion sizes are smaller. That's a big thing because I have had like Europeans like come visit me and they'll go to a restaurant and be like, holy fucking shit, this is enough food for 3 people. You know, which it is. I mean, even for me, it's like too much to eat and I am from here.
There's a certain mentality in the United States when it comes to restaurants.
That it's like, if I'm paying, I want
a lot
all
of
the food.
Exactly.
All the food you got in this fucking joint.
They're giving you these huge portions because they want you to come back. They want you to feel that you had your money's worth.
That's and that's definitely
it has nothing to do with health.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's definitely more, I mean, it's more than a normal person can eat. Yeah. Like a fat person, like, or somebody, like, not necessarily a fat person, because like some skinny people can eat like.
If you're a practiced veteran of consumption.
That's a good way of putting it.
Then you can eat a lot.
But I mean, I go like yesterday we go to, like, sometimes we go to, you know, Koi Wan, like the Chinese buffet. Because, you know, it's a good deal. I can't eat a shit ton in there. I'll eat a plate and about a little bit more, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna barf. I can't like really eat anymore. And I tend to stick to like protein things. Like I like boiled shrimp. I like little scallops in the shell.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I don't eat any rice. I don't eat any noodles. I don't eat anything like that.
No.
I mostly just eat like meat things and like vegetable things.
Jenny and I go to,
and a little bit of wonton soup.
Jenny and I go to the fucking Chinese buffet to steal as much protein from the Chinese as we can.
Or at least
I'll go down there and try to eat as much fucking shrimp.
Yeah, the like
boiled shrimp.
The boiled shrimp.
Because it's just ask Lee Priest, bodybuilder and fucking Olympiad. He'll tell you that fucking you can get a clean meal out of a Chinese buffet if you know what.
Well, there's a lot to pick from.
Yeah, if you there's a lot of fish there. There's a lot.
Yeah,
of beef,
I tend to stick with seafood.
Don't eat noodles and don't eat rice.
Yeah, I
just
don't
eat the good shit, and it's quite healthy for you.
I basically stick with seafood or like pepper steak or something that's just like meat and mushrooms and peppers and onions and broccoli.
Stay away from rice. And
I don't eat any noodles. I don't eat any rice. I don't eat.
And I'll cheat and I'll eat a couple of them crab rangoons.
Every now and then I'll have one of those or a dumpling, but I'll just have one.
Yeah. But I mostly eat like fucking 2 whole plates of boiled shrimp.
He does, yeah.
That's like 2 pounds.
He gets like
protein.
This is how seasoned we are at this shit. You go to the
you know exactly
thing,
the setup you're gonna get.
You get 2 plates.
2 plates, one underneath the other.
One underneath the other one, because then you can put the shells on that one.
Yeah.
You have to get 1 or 2 things of cocktail sauce. Also,
and lemons.
You have to get 1 or 2 wedges of lemon. 1 lemon to put on the shrimp and the scallops, and 1 or 2 lemons to wash your hands afterwards so they don't smell like shrimp
for the rest of the day.
Because
that acid will eat that shrimp smell right up.
Pro tip.
Yeah.
If you're out eating boiled shrimp, I mean, you can wash your hands too, but the lemon is
the
like
lemon
really
is much better than
it's much better.
Soap.
Like, do the lemon first and then go wash your hands.
Yeah, squeeze that lemon juice in your hands and rub it around and rub the peel.
That's an old trick from like fucking.
That's old redneck shit.
Yeah, well, from
Eat
when
crab boils and
from when you do crab boils and like crawdads,
crawfish and shit. Yeah.
Everybody sprays like squeezes lemons all over their hands, just rubs the lemon.
Rub it up on your face, even if you got it up.
So you don't stink all day like fish. So you don't smell like the fucking fish counter.
lemon will eat all that right up.
Yep. So, like I said, pro tip: if you're gonna go eat shrimp at the fucking buffet,
teach these bitches on how to eat all this stuff.
So, as I was saying, these little gnomes, the little Nisse and Tomte, they like the porridge with the butter on it.
Of course.
Now, the funny thing about this is that apparently there is a legend, and the legend is called when the Nisse got no butter on his Christmas porridge.
Okay.
And the legend goes that it was Christmas Eve, and the servant girl was going to leave the bowl of porridge out for the little gnome guy.
Yeah.
And she thought she would be funny.
And not put butter on it.
Well, she did put butter, but she put it in the bottom instead of the top.
Okay, fucking him over.
To fuck him over, right.
Yeah.
So she hides the butter at the bottom of the bowl. So the Nisse, the little gnome, he sees there's no, but he doesn't even like fucking, he doesn't fuck around. He looks at the bowl, there's no butter on the top. He's like, I'm burning this shit down. Yeah. So he goes into the barn and kills their best cow.
God damn.
Then he comes back and he's like, all right, well, that's how pissed I am, and I'm going to eat the porridge anyway. Yeah. So then he eats the porridge, and he finds the butter at the bottom.
Yeah, and then what happened?
And then he feels bad. Yeah. So he goes to the neighbor's house and steals their best cow and puts it in the barn where the dead one was.
That's European justice.
So I'm like, so he's just fucking over the neighbor. Yeah. Apparently, there's like a whole bunch of different stories about these little gnomes where it's like, if you're like nice to your little guy, your little gnome or whatever that's taking care of your farm and stuff, he will totally steal from the neighbors for you. Because there's another legend too, where one farmer was like, he was really poor and he couldn't afford to buy hay for his animals, but he's like, well, the animals seem to be doing really well. They're like really fat and everything. And then he found out later that his little Nisse or his little gnome was stealing all the fucking hay from the neighbor and feeding it to his animals.
Yeah, these are morality tales. These are morality tales from the honky motherland. All right, this is the way white people do this shit. Okay, it's kind of like morality, but it's kind of a sideways morality.
It definitely is, because the first thing I thought of
and they know it.
Yeah,
people who wrote that shit know it.
The first thing I thought of was like, one, he probably should have checked if there was butter in the bottom of it before he went all like vigilante on a motherfucker. Yeah, because he killed a cow.
Yeah, but he felt responsible because he felt bad.
But then he fucked the neighbor.
So he steal it from them and bring it up. But yeah, I can understand that. That's supposed to be funny.
It is kind of funny.
I think it's supposed to be funny, yeah.
Well, I guess if you're thinking about it in the modern parlance, then like the neighbors are like NPC characters. They're non-player characters. Yeah. So it's like it doesn't matter if they lose a cow or not, and they didn't even have anything to fucking do with the butter not being in the correct place in the porridge.
I think the injustice is supposed to be funny.
I can see that.
I think that's what they're talking about.
I thought it was, I don't know.
I think we stole it from him. And then you go, wait a minute, hold on, that makes it right? And then you're supposed to laugh.
Those gnomes.
Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about. That makes it right? Yeah, that makes it right in the fucking minds of a fucking gnome.
It's like, for some reason, I just found that, and apparently, like, I did, like, a Google search for, like, tomte and, like, nisse and stuff like that, and apparently there's a shit ton of people on Etsy, and I don't think they're all from Scandinavian countries either, that make little, like, stuffed little tomte and stuff like that you can have in your house for Christmas, and they are adorable. Yeah. Little, like, gnomes and stuff. They look kind of like, well, I mean, this is Santa, obviously. My grandma made this. But this is Santa. But they're, like, this size, and they look kind of like that. They have, like, a little face like that, a little beard like that, and, like, really big, tall, like, red hats. Yeah. They're cute as shit. I kind of wanted one.
I don't think that they're trying to pass it off as that it was right. I think they're just trying to fucking point out that the gnomes are assholes.
That's how the gnome do.
Yeah, they're kind of like, it's supposed to be funny, kind of like a genie story.
I can get that.
That they're dicks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's like you have to appease them, and they're like really they're kind of like Karen when she goes to Starbucks, and you don't get her fucking order right, like you put fucking regular milk in it instead of soy milk, and like you don't put enough pumps in there, and she gets like, "Can I see your manager?" So I kind of feel like that's kind of what they're saying. That
I think it's a warning, basically.
That you have to do everything exactly the way gnome wants, or somebody
gnome
else will fuck your shit up.
Yeah. And if it's not even you, it'll be somebody else like your neighbor. I think that's what they're talking about.
Gnome causing destruction just because the butter was underneath the porridge.
Yeah, and I think you're supposed to laugh at it.
Okay. It is funny. I thought it was
supposed to be
funny.
like, oh yeah, so he didn't fuck you over, but he fucked somebody else over. Oh, those damn gnomes. I think that's how you're supposed to.
They're so tricksy.
Yeah,
those
gnomes.
Damn
gnomes.
But for some reason, I was very charmed by the idea that all you had to do to appease them was like just be cool to them, like, hey gnome, thanks for like cleaning up my shit and like taking care of my animals and stuff. But also all you had to do was like every now and then just throw them some porridge. Only it's got butter on it.
Gotta have butter on it though.
If you just give them plain porridge, they don't like that shit.
No,
now,
they want the full fucking boat, man.
They
want
porridge. They want the butter experience.
Butter and everything. Yeah.
It's like
what's funny is that they had no concept of like salt.
Well,
no concept of sugar.
Well, what I was saying.
Or what about maple syrup? What the fuck would they say about maple?
That's
they
what
didn't
I was
know
just
about
gonna
that,
say.
I
was like, what if you gave them a bowl of like Quaker oatmeal with apples and cinnamon in it?
That's right.
Shit, which is clearly better
with some butter
than just porridge and butter. I mean, shit, you could put butter on that too.
Yeah.
What would happen if, much like in modern American folklore, where you leave cookies for say, what if you gave them cookies?
Yeah.
Would they not like that? Because they're like, no, I'm more into the porridge. Would they be like an old person that's like, they have to have everything?
Yeah, fuck all that. That's all.
They have to have everything the way that they have to have. This is like newfangled cookies. I can't deal with it.
Right. Oh, I think I owe you gold now. I ain't bringing you.
I'm not
gold.
Rumpelstiltskin.
I'm not going to bring you gold.
That's what it would be like. So it's like this. Just like it. There's so many questions that came about from my reading about these like creatures.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, specifically just like the porridge and the butter. It's like you'd think they're supernatural creatures, presumably. So they could aim high. They could get better shit than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are they for, like a Snickers bar at least, or something? Hot cocoa? I don't know, anything. A pork roast?
What's next on the list?
Let's talk about Hans Trapp. Now remember...
Hans Trapp?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Or Hans Trott, he's sometimes known as that.
They said Hans Trapp.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Really?
Hans Trapp or Hans Trott.
I thought that was like a fucking transsexual, a trap.
It might
like
be
a passable transsexual.
That may be that might be a that
you
might
see
be
it. You think it's female, but it's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Yeah.
Just like
Hans is a trap.
Yeah. I guess. Okay. Well, this wasn't this guy's original name. Now, remember how I was talking about earlier how a lot of cultures have, like, Santa Claus or the Christ child or Christkind or whoever comes to your house to bring the presents on Christmas, because pretty much all the Western cultures have that. But most other cultures, other than the United States, Santa's got, like I said, an enforcer. Some places it's Krampus. Some places they have one it's like Black Peter. They have like a bunch of other ones that's kind of like bad cop to Santa's good cop, right? So Hans Trapp is one of those. But the interesting thing about this person is that this is based on a real guy who actually lived. Now, some of the stuff like in his early life, that really happened. They do have records of this guy, but some of the stuff after that was like probably made up. And, then he kind of just went into legend. But this was a real guy. Now, his name wasn't Hans Trapp originally. It kind of like evolved into that later on as he kind of went on into legend. He was actually called Hans von Trotha. And he was a knight and marshal of the ruler of the Palatinate, I guess you would call it. This was a territory next to the Rhine, which at the time belonged to the Holy Roman Empire. Now, he died in around 1503 at the age of 53, so he was born in the 1400s. pretty much since he like came onto the public scene, nobody really liked the motherfucker. Apparently he was kind of a dick. So he kind of had a reputation for being a dick. So 1480, he gets 2 castles. Like the elector of the region gives him 2 castles. One of them was called Grafendon, and one of them was called Berwarstein. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. He moves into the Berwarstein one. And then apparently him and the reigning Catholic Church, this is around the, the area like the French and German border. So him and the Catholic Church kind of get into, a beef. Let's call it that. Apparently the monastery that was right around the castle where this guy lived, they used to own that castle and all the stuff in it and some of the land around it. And they didn't think that the elector had any right to sell it to this motherfucker. So they were kind of pissed off about it. So there was like a big feud about that. The abbot goes to the elector. The elector says, no, I sold it to the guy, legally. You guys don't have anything, about it. And it's like, and even then, just to be a dick, apparently to spite the abbot and like the other monks at this monastery, he's like, well, I'm just going to sell this Hans person like even more land. So suck it. So now after that, Hans decides that I guess to supply more water to his land and his castle, he decides to dam a river that's like right there. And the monastery is like there. You know what I mean? They presumably used the river also. Now he dammed the river. There was a reservoir. And the town and like where the monastery was, like their water started drying up. So they understandably got a little pissed off. They go to the abbot, but the abbot wouldn't do anything. But finally they, everybody complained so much that Hans was like, fine, you bitches, I'll just like tear my dam down. And then he tears the dam down and floods the village, because like I said, kind of a douche. So, the abbot finally is like, had enough of this Hans dude. He complains to the Pope. But the Pope didn't really do anything. He kind of just dicked around on it for about 8 years. Then that Pope either died or was, had his successor like his next Pope. So the next Pope says Hans von Trapp is like, you come to Rome, we got to talk to you. Hans would not come. And instead he wrote a letter to the Pope in which he apparently said some pretty nasty things. And he also said that, I used to believe in God, but you bitches were such assholes to me, like with all the dam and the castle business and everything, that I don't believe anymore. At which point, the Pope excommunicated him.
Kick that fucker out.
Now, Hans actually lived in the castle for another 4 years and then died of natural causes.
You don't want to be a Catholic anyway. Stop it. You need to be a Southern Baptist. You need to be a Southern Baptist. Go ahead, Jen.
Handle some snakes. Drink some
handle some snakes.
You'll be fine.
That's right. Stop smacking them mackerels. Okay? Don't worry about all that.
So he dies of natural causes.
Snake bites. That's what you got to worry about. Surviving snake bites.
Okay.
Okay.
So he dies of natural causes in, as I said, 1503. 2 years later, the Catholic Church officially lifts his excommunication, but of course he was dead at that point, so it didn't really matter. Now, at this point, it seems that obviously the guy was a dick, but as time went on, like more and more legend kind of became attached to this real person. And a whole bunch of other, like, exaggerations, like, started being piled onto him until he eventually became, like, this Santa Claus figure in this particular, his Santa Claus enforcer figure, like, in this particular region of the world. So later on, the legend went that it wasn't only that he had written this letter to the Pope that said, hey, I used to believe in God, but now I'm an atheist because you guys were so mean to me, or whatever it was that he said and got it excommunicated. That kind of got exaggerated later into, now he's a Satanist, he sacrificed animals to the devil, and all this other kind of stuff. Then, Then the story went that after he got excommunicated, even though in real life he stayed in the castle where he lived and he just died in there and everything was normal, the legend grew that he was a Satanist. He got excommunicated, and then he got exiled, like, out to this fucking, like, house, like, way out in the forest somewhere. Then he went crazy from the isolation, and because he was insane, like you do, he started wanting to eat people. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Insanity
happens,
equals cannibalism,
yeah.
as everyone knows. So, and specifically, he decided he wanted to eat a little kid. So, story goes, he starts wandering around this farmer's field, like near this place where he lived out in the middle of nowhere. And he decided that he was going to disguise himself as a scarecrow. And like he stuffed his clothes full of hay and everything. And then he would like stand on the side of the road and like wait for someone to happen past that he could eat. Which, I don't know why this cracks me up, but it does.
Yeah.
So he stands in the field pretending to be a scarecrow for several days. Just like waiting for the right, most delicious person to wander by. So a 10-year-old boy, a few days later, happens to wander past him close enough, I guess, where he could grab him. Hans Trapp, because that's what his name had evolved to at this point by the time that this legend had come about. He's waiting there. The little boy walks past. Hans jumps on him. Then he carries him back to his lair, killed him, and roasted him.
Damn.
Now, right before he was going to eat him, though, God struck him with lightning.
Jesus Christ.
And killed him. Why he didn't do that before he killed the kid?
Right.
I don't know, but
Don't
God works in
God.
mysterious
Don't
ways,
God.
as they say. He waited till the kid was
God.
cooked. Like in the fucking
Struck
pit.
him dead.
And then he's like, okay, now I'll do it. Sorry.
It almost sounds like something that could have happened. Not the lightning striking part, but
Well, like I said, it was based on a real guy, but the real guy just got excommunicated for relatively boring reasons.
Made him a cannibal.
But then they made him not only a cannibal, but they also made the whole like he dressed up as a scarecrow to get his victims.
Yeah.
Which I don't know where that detail came from, but it's delightful. So, how now there are differing theories about how this particular horror story about the scarecrow and him eating the kid and getting struck down by God by lightning. There are a couple different theories as to how this legend became associated with Christmas, because it is. Because in this part of the world, you know, I don't think it's Santa Claus in that part of the world, but it's like Christ Child or Christkind or whatever they call him. So when he comes and brings the presents, like Hans Trapp is behind him with the stick he's going to be just like Krampus pretty much, except he's a human. So there's two like differing theories about how he got associated with Christmas. Now, one of these was that when Hans Trapp got struck by lightning by God for cooking the kid, that Saint Nicholas also happened to be in the area. And since Saint Nicholas, as I said, not only is the patron saint of children, but is also the patron saint of prostitutes and also of unrepentant thieves. Not cannibals, though, which would make more sense with the story. But apparently Saint Nicholas saw Hans Trapp's body, which had been struck by lightning, so he's like all smoking and smoldering and shit. And he said, well, this guy's dead, but he deserves redemption. So the story goes that Saint Nicholas like took Hans Trapp with him along on his rounds, taking presents to good children, like as a redemption arc. Like he's like, hey, you come with me and be my wingman or my number two or whatever it is, and we'll like pay back your karma or whatever it is for eating that kid like you did, even though God could have stopped you, but he did not. So that's one story about how he got related. And the other story is a lot more practical, where it's just like, the legend of Hans Trapp and the legend of Saint Nicholas, becoming like the Santa Claus type figure. These were kind of both becoming codified right around the same time period. And so they just kind of somehow got merged together like stories like that do. So some people think that maybe it happened like that. But apparently, as I said, this figure is still in the Alsace region, which I think is how you pronounce it, like right around the Also Lorraine, like right around with the French and German border. So St. Nicholas comes to your house, bringing good children toys, and Hans Trapp is right behind him, giving you beatings. And I even have like, I found a woodcut of like, and I don't even know if it's St. Nicholas. It looks more like a female angel, but she's coming in there with like, hey, hi, children. And like some of the kids are like that. And then like in the windows coming this dude with like a big fucking stick. Here he comes. So yeah, like I said, Santa's enforcer. And I think we didn't cover that on the Christmas creature show because he's not really a creature. He's a dude. But so I thought that was really interesting. The Hans Trapp, the scarecrow cannibal of Christmas. Yay, Merry Christmas. All right, so let's take another break right now so I can save this part of the file off because we're doing this in chunks so we don't mess everything up. Yeah. So we don't lose anything. And then we come back in our final segment of the show, which is our most cheerful, and by that I mean our least cheerful. I'm going to talk about 3 horrible, horrible tragedies that all happened at Christmas. So we will leave you with something like to think about on this fucking Christmas Eve. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
She doesn't want me to put the hat on her. I went to put the hat on her and she went, brr, brr. She said, it smells kind of neat though, right? You want to see what the hat looks like? You want to see what the hat looks like? Look. She's like, oh no, you don't. Okay. God damn it. Don't you put that hat on me. You suck. Aw. It's Christmas, Pookie. We put it on during the show and she didn't really seem to care. But it's like she doesn't want to. She's like, yeah, you fuck off. Yeah. Well, she has like a red collar on. That's kind of festive. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. All right. I'll leave you alone. I'm sorry, Cookie.
All right, and now we're on the final segment of the Christmas special.
Yeah, we got 3 cases.
The super bummer segment.
Yeah, it's not a super bummer, is it? If
yeah,
it's a super bummer, then they just check out.
No,
this
because
is the kind of shit they like.
That's what I mean. That's why people tune into the show. It's like I couldn't just do like a regular show. Okay. Like I'm interested in all the kind of stuff about like fucking Hans Trapp and like the origins of Santa Claus and stuff like that. But then I was just kind of like, what's some horrible shit that happened on Christmas?
This is the kind of shit.
That's what I mean. It's like I can't help it.
I'm gonna call them clockers. This is the kind of shit clockers like.
Clockers. What's
clockers.
That sounds like a movie from the 90s about computer hackers.
Yeah, clockers. 13 clockers.
That's yeah.
Yeah, I made that shit up myself.
You did, yeah. I'm impressed.
Okay. But
yeah, so it's like I love Christmas, but I also have, a morbid side, as a lot of you do. So, So I looked up, it's like, what's some horrible shit that happened on Christmas? And there was a lot of things, obviously, because it's just a day. However, these were the 3 that I found the most compelling and the most depressing, but also the most fascinating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the first of these is known as the Italian Hall Disaster. This happened in 1913, also known as the 1913 Massacre. This happened in Calumet, Michigan, on Christmas Eve of 1913. 73 men, women, and children crushed to death in a stampede when someone falsely yelled fire at a Christmas party. Now, there is like a lot more going on in this story. And apparently, I had never heard of this, but apparently it's quite famous in the Michigan area. And there's a big memorial there. Woody Guthrie wrote a song about it and everything. So the background of the story was that there was a mining company there called Calumet and Hecla Mining Company, or C&H Mining Company. It was the largest copper mining company in that part of Northwest Michigan. Now, what was significant about that was that one of the longest strikes to ever happen in this part of the country happened in this year in 1913. And this strike included pretty much all of the, or most of the workers of the C&H mines, because there were more than one. So there was like a lot of, the strike actually went on from 1913 into like spring of 1914, But over the Christmas season, even though the strike had been going on for 5 months, there was kind of like a little bit of a, they kind of called a little bit of a truce because it was the Christmas season. Not exactly, but it's, it wasn't like at the heat of it like it was. Now, what ended up happening was that on Christmas Eve, a bunch of the striking miners and their families, they went to the, Italian cultural hall or whatever for a Christmas party that was apparently sponsored by the Ladies Auxiliary of the Western Federation of Miners. So this party took place, and there was a picture of, it's not there anymore, but there's pictures of the building, the second floor of the Calumet Italian Hall. Now, apparently there was only one way up to the second floor, and this was a very steep stairway. There was a fire escape on one side of the building and ladders down the back, but they weren't real clearly marked, and you could only get to them by climbing out the windows. Now, there were about 400 people in the room at the height of the Christmas party, and someone yelled, they don't know who, someone yelled fire, even though apparently there was no fire. Okay? So someone yelled fire. Understandably, everyone panicked and started rushing for the one set of stairs. What ended up happening was that, obviously, because it was only one way out, and I guess people didn't know that you could climb out the windows and down the ladders and everything. People didn't know they were there. So everyone kind of rushed for this staircase, and 73 people ended up getting killed. This included 59 children. They all got stampeded and stomped on and stuff like that. Now, the debate, and what made this so fascinating to me, is that no one is entirely sure why someone yelled, because the fire department was called and everything like that. When the fire department got there, evidently there was no fire and had never been. So someone shouted fire for some reason, and they're not entirely sure who it was. And over the years, there have been much speculation as to why someone did that. So, one of the most famous, or one of the best known theories about this, and one that was put forth by Woody Guthrie in his song that he wrote about it, was that someone friendly to the company, was, or an anti-union person or something like that, was in there. I don't think they intended to kill anyone, but they were trying to disrupt the party or cause a panic by yelling fire in the crowded room. And there was a lot of, it was kind of shitty too, because all these people got killed. They did an inquest, the coroner did an inquest. Some of the witnesses that they talked to, they were Italian Americans. They did not speak any English. And they didn't have an interpreter there, so there was some problems in that area. A lot of the witnesses were not asked any follow-up questions. Some of the people that were, asked to testify hadn't seen particular things that happened, or hadn't, been at particular places where they were asking about. The coroner ended up giving a ruling that did not give a cause of death for a lot of people, which they thought was very odd. Now they, a little while later, a couple months after the incident, there was a subcommittee in the U.S. House of Representatives that they came out there and they were going to do their own investigation. They had they questioned a bunch of the witnesses and stuff like that. They were actually given interpreters this time. They had 20 different witnesses. Now they had 8 different witnesses at this particular inquest that said, and this is where the whole the guy was a anti-union saboteur or whatever. 8 witnesses said that the person that yelled fire, that they had seen him and they didn't know who he was, but that he had a Citizens Alliance button on his coat, which was Citizens Alliance was kind of a company friendly type of one of their things that they kind of did out as strikebreakers and stuff like that. So 8 people saw somebody with that button and he was yelling fire in the room. Another thing too is that, and this is they're not really sure, but this is a little bit of a urban legend, I guess. But over the years, and I think even the memorial that's still in Calumet, Michigan now says this, is that a lot of the problem happened because the doors opened inward rather than outward, and that when everyone was trying to get out, they thought the doors opened outward, as they should have, and so they couldn't get out. There was also some urban legends too that someone was on the other side of the door, like keeping people from getting out.
Sounds unlikely.
However, well, I've seen photographs,
Yeah.
apparently photographs of the building, and it does appear that the doors opened outward as they were supposed to. And I think pretty much every investigation, now there's some confusion because they're like, well, what could have happened was that there was the outer doors did open outward, it appeared, from the photographs and everything and the blueprints. However, there was like a vestibule type of thing. So there was like another set of doors like further in, and it could be those that opened inward rather than outward, and maybe that's what was causing the issue. However, like I said, there were laws in place that said, your doors had to open outward just for this very reason. So there was kind of like some controversy about that, but it does look like the doors opened outward, and it just appeared that everyone was just trying to run for this one narrow staircase because they didn't know about the ladders on the outside of the windows and stuff like that. So as everyone, it's 400 people all trying to race toward one area, and they ended up kind of stepping on each other and stampeding. As I said, there did not appear that there was a fire because the fire department was called. They did come there, and there apparently was no fire. And like I said, I've seen photographs of, there are a lot of photographs online. You can find them. I found a whole bunch of them of the funeral and like of the memorial that happened after the incident. And they showed a picture of the Italian hall with the flag at half staff and everything like that. And it looks totally fine. It looks totally intact. So there's like a whole thing about that. So they're not really sure. It might have been just that everyone panicked and stuff. But the thing that just made this really interesting to me was that somebody yelled fire in that crowded room, and they still don't know who it is. Now, a book that came out fairly recently, like probably in the last decade or so, the person that wrote this book said, they had done this like extensive investigation on the case and everything like that, and they think they know who it was, and they are correct in saying it was someone from the Citizens Alliance, which was like an like a company-friendly, like anti-union type of thing, and like they, like I said, I'm not saying that anyone said that they specifically thought they were going to kill 73 people in this, but they were just trying to like disrupt the party or cause a panic or cause some kind of problem. You know what I mean? Because all of these workers were on strike and they didn't like it. So this recent book, I don't know what the person's name was, but they said that they have evidence that they know who the person was and what their job was, and that they were the person, and they were told to go in there and yell fire at this Christmas Eve party and cause chaos. Like I said,
it sounds plausible.
It does really.
Having like spent part of my high school years there and known a lot of people from Michigan, lived in Detroit for a couple years. I know the culture real well. Even back in the 80s, Michigan is like a fucking really. The place was dominated by the auto industry, and the unions were very fucking powerful. Unions and organized crime. There's all kinds of movies about it. This goes into Chicago and shit like that too. It's all the kind of like that same culture. It's a weird culture. It's a culture that's kind of like half American and half Soviet. Imagine if the fucking America was the Soviet Union. It always kind of had a Soviet feeling to it. Everything gray. Buildings gray, sky gray, ground with snow on it. It's all very fucking industrial. Factories everywhere. And unions. So, union activity, anti-union, and organized crime, all that shit fucking matches. It was something like that.
I kind of feel like it would, because here's the thing, it's like there was a very rancorous strike going on at this time. And indeed, the strike didn't even end until April following this Christmas where this happened. Yeah. And the strike had already been going on for 5 months. There were like at least 9,000 workers from this particular mining company from different, it wasn't all one mine. It was this one mining company that owned a bunch of mines. And so there was a lot of like bad blood between the workers and the management. And the fact that they were having this big Christmas party at the Italian hall, it doesn't really, because why why would someone just randomly do that? I'm not saying that that's impossible, because people do crazy shit all the time, but I feel like there had to be a reason, because I have never seen any evidence that points to the fact that there was ever really a fire in there. The fire department found no fire. There was just no evidence of any fire in the building.
For people who don't know America real well, if we have, foreigners and stuff, people from Europe, the Detroit area, Gary, which is close to there.
That's
Gary,
Indiana,
Indiana, Chicago. This is the kind of like the Siberia of
the Rust Belt.
Yeah, it's like the Siberia of the United States, and it was very much where everything was being manufactured, like Tankograd, the equivalent of Tankograd in the Soviet Union, the place where all the heavy industry was going on, manufacturing cars and trains or just whatever, and it was they had a lot of money there, but there was also kind of like a lot of, would say like Union/Bolshevik fucking activity. A lot of fucking riots, race riots of different kinds. It was, it was an area of creation and destruction. You never could tell what was going on. And of course the mob was involved in a lot of that. And there's a lot of different kinds of mobs. The Union was mob. The local government was kind of mob. So, everything was about playing a political situation off of something, it was a bunch of different conflicting forces. Wherever there's money, there's going to be people fighting over it. So this kind of sounds like, if that's what the investigation said, I probably would give some credence to it. That sounds plausible.
I would imagine so. I mean, it really does seem to me that there had to be a reason. Like I said, I'm not going so far as to say that this person that was tasked with going in there and yelling fire, I don't think that they could foresee that 73 people, most of which were children, would die. But in a way, they probably should have foreseen that. I mean, that's like super, super irresponsible.
Yeah. There was a lot of different, union busting, and then there was strike busting. It was,
Yeah. So
it was fucking warfare in that area.
Yeah, clearly. And I mean, I definitely think there was some manner, because I really find it hard to believe that in that situation that somebody would just wander in there and just do that randomly just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
Because that seems like a fucked up thing to do, especially like in the middle of a Christmas party when there are so many children present. Like I said, I'm not saying they intended to kill 73 people, but that's what ended up happening. And I'm not really sure if they're ever going to find out who this person is. Like I said, Woody Guthrie wrote a song about it called 1913 Massacre. It's funny. It's not really all that well known, I guess, but I found it like on some random list of horrible shit that happened at Christmas time. And then like I looked it up and it has a Wikipedia page. Now, apparently there was what I was talking about before. There was this book that came out. I think the first edition of it came out in 2006, and it was called Death's Door. And it was about this. And in the first edition of the book, he said he thought that it was like one of those Citizens Alliance people that came in and yelled fire, but he didn't name who it was. But in the newer edition of the book, which came out in 2013, he actually did name the person and what their job was, and he had like evidence to back it up. Yeah. So it looks like maybe that's probably what happened. That people's like conception about that it was done on purpose are probably correct.
Yeah, if you guys want to see some spooky shit, go on YouTube and go look at the ruins of Detroit and Gary, Indiana, which is all kind of like it's the same area. You know what I mean? It's all part of that same system, even though that's in Indiana, Gary is. But and there's even certain cities in Ohio that are kind of creepy. It's a dead culture now. Fucking, it was just weird.
Well, not a lot of manufacturing.
No, it's all gone
anymore.
Now. It's all gone. But
that's where it all took place.
But there were these huge churches that are abandoned, huge subway systems that are now abandoned, factories. Just it was another world back then. There was millions of people there, making money. Mansions that are gone. You could even find Mike Tyson's old mansion that he abandoned and sold back in the 80s. That's up outside Detroit.
I like those like urban exploration channels that go to these like mansions that are just like abandoned in the middle of nowhere. Some of them, they still have like furniture and shit in them. Like people didn't even take the stuff with them.
Used to live on 2nd and West Hancock, and he used to live in another place just across the street from there. before I went into the Army, and fucking that was like the era where Detroit was like something out of the movie The Crow. That's why The Crow was fucking there. You know what I mean? You had cool goth clubs like fucking City Club and The Shelter, and St. Andrew's Hall used to have fucking Sisters of Mercy playing in it. It was another era. It's all gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Creepy.
Well,
It was creepy though.
Time
it was
goes
more
by.
New York than New York. All the shit's gone now. Fucking the city just cannibalized itself.
Yeah.
Everybody moved away.
So the next thing I want to talk about, and this is pretty horrible also, this also happened on a Christmas day. This happened in 1929. This is known as the Lawson Family Massacre.
Okay.
This happened in Germantown, North Carolina. Charlie Lawson apparently had been married to his wife Fanny for 18 years. And over that time, they had 8 children, 4 sons and 4 daughters. Now, one of their kids, who was the third kid, William, he had died in 1920, when he was still little, but the other 7 children were still alive. However, on Christmas morning, 1929, Charlie, for some reason, decided he was going to wipe out pretty much his entire family. They were actually sharecroppers. They had been working for a long time. They had finally, just 2 years prior, had saved up enough to buy their own farm. So, they had their own farm. It was pretty nice and everything like that. Now, not too long before this particular Christmas Day massacre, the whole family had gone into town to buy all new outfits and to get a family portrait taken, which I have and I will show you. The last portrait taken of this family before they were all wiped out only a few days later. So look at this picture and think of that. Those people were all dead a few hours later. It's like super creepy. So now they were, even though they owned a farm, they had been sharecroppers, so they were still, fairly poor. They weren't like wealthy or anything like that. So buying new clothes and getting a portrait taken, that's kind of like a big deal, and it wasn't really something that a lot of working class people did. So many people have speculated that Charlie Lawson was like already planning to kill his whole family, and he went and got him all these new duds and like a new picture just so he would have something to remember them by or to memorialize them or something, because it was like only like right before he decided to do this, like right before he did it, that he went and the whole family got photographed. So Christmas afternoon, 2 of Charlie Lawson's daughters, Carrie and Maybelle, who were 12 and 7 years old, were going off to visit their aunt and uncle. While they were leaving the house, Charlie was like laying in wait for them by the barn. And when they walked past him, he shot them both with a shotgun from close range. Then he bludgeoned them to death, making sure that they were dead. Hi there, little Pookie.
Yeah, Pookie decided.
She decided to come join us for the show. It's the Do you want the Christmas hat on? Put the Santa hat on. You want to put the Santa hat on? She's like, okay. She doesn't mind at all.
Huh.
She's like, whatever. It won't stay though. All right, bye. So he shot 2 of his daughters and then bludgeoned them, apparently to make sure that they were dead. Then he stowed both of their bodies in the tobacco barn. After he did that, he walked back to the house. His wife was on the porch, and he shot her as well. Then he, one by one, tracked down his other 4 children and shot all of them, starting with his 17-year-old daughter, Marie, then his son, James, who was 4, his son, Raymond, who was 2, and then he beat to death his 4-month-old baby, Mary Lou. Now, for some reason, he also had a 16-year-old son named Arthur. Now, before he had started killing everyone, he sent Arthur off into town to run an errand. Although no one is certain as to why he decided to spare this one kid and he was like fucking wiping out the rest of them.
This is already sounding familiar to me.
This is, it's a pretty famous massacre.
Well, I was thinking about that other guy. This is more back in the 80s who killed his whole family and then started a new life.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it out of malice. He did it because he could no longer support them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal
sounds
was.
like some shit like that.
Where
it's kind of like an honor killing, but we'll find out more about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after he had killed them all, except for Arthur, who was presumably still in town and didn't know what was going on, Charlie, he posed all their bodies. Like, he laid them all down, crossed their arms, and then put rocks under their heads, like pillows. Then he took off into the woods and hung around in the woods for several hours and then shot himself in the head. So since it was several hours between the time that, like, you know, that he had killed his family and between the time that he had shot himself, like, in the interim, like, other people had found his family's bodies, like, before they figured out where he had gone. So when all the neighbors were, like, on his property and they were, like, fucking freaking out because they found all these bodies and they heard the gunshot, like, from the woods. So they knew that Charlie, and then they went and found him. Now, no one is entirely sure why Charlie Lawson decided to massacre pretty much his entire family. One of the legends that was going around at the time was that he had gotten a head injury a few months prior, and that for some reason this had caused some kind of brain damage and that, like, kind of made him flip out and everything like that. Although apparently they did an autopsy after he died and didn't find any brain damage. Some people also speculated that he wasn't the one who had done the murders, that maybe it was like some kind of organized crime thing, like it was a mob and they came in and, like, wanted to make him look like he did it or something like that. Although I'm not sure if anyone really believes that, but that was kind of another rumor that was swirling around. And also one of the legends about why he did it that has kind of come about more recently was that it may have been that Charlie was having an incestuous relationship with his daughter Marie, who was at the time 17 years old. Speculation was, and this is according to talking to some other, like, you know, relatives, like extended family members and stuff like that of the Lawson family, that they thought perhaps he had been having sex with Marie, that perhaps she had gotten pregnant, and maybe he didn't want everyone to find out, didn't want the pregnancy shit to come out, everything like that. Now, there is no evidence of this. I don't know if they did an autopsy on Marie and found out if she was pregnant or not, or I don't know. But like I said, apparently some of their extended relatives and stuff like that, there were rumors circulating, and apparently Marie allegedly had told some of her friends that her dad was, you know, molesting her and that he had gotten her pregnant, which would provide a motive, that's true. But again, there's, like, not a lot of, solid evidence for that conjecture. Sadly, Arthur Lawson, who was 16 at the time of the massacre and was the only member of the Lawson family to survive, he did actually grow up. He got married. He had 4 children, but was killed in a car accident in 1945 at the age of 32. Now, apparently, in Madison, North Carolina, there is a place called the Madison Dry Goods Country Store that has a small museum in it that is dedicated to the Lawson family that you can go and visit if you're into that kind of thing. And probably if I was there, I would probably visit that because that totally sounds like something I would go to.
Was there any evidence of any kind of, like, financial distress or anything? Maybe was he losing his job?
Not that I ever heard of. It's like pretty much the only stuff I've ever heard of is, you know, the 3 ones I just said. Either he had a head injury. Like, a lot of people thought he had a head injury and, like, that he just, like, flipped out because he had brain damage. But like I said, they didn't find any brain damage. Or that he was molesting his daughter, and that's why. Or that he didn't even do it, that it was like some mob thing, or he owed somebody money and they came and, like, wiped everyone out. I don't know if I buy that, though, because I think even when they found his body in the woods, like where he had committed suicide, they only saw his footprints. It looked like he had been, like, pacing around for several hours, like he was trying to decide if he was going to do it or not. You know what I mean?
To me, this sounds like it kind of just matches up with some of the other homicides I've heard about from this era. It's almost kind of like an honor killing. They had these guys where they were so uptight about their role in the family as the family patriarch that they had to fucking have a certain kind of job, to make a certain amount of money, to keep everybody, you know what I mean, to keep the family in a certain standing, and they just would not tolerate any kind of setbacks financially. Yeah. So sometimes what would happen to these guys they would build a very successful family life, but if they'd lose their job or something bad would happen to them, and instead of taking a temporary setback in the income, they would kill the family to save the honor.
That type of stuff is very scary to me, because that seems like
that's happened.
I know, but that's what freaks me out, is that you can't just, like, bad shit happens to everybody. Yeah. It's like, it sucks, but it does. It's like, it doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything like that. It's just, like I said, the universe is indifferent. Bad shit happens to everybody. It's like, you have to roll with it. You can't, like, if you just have, like, a temporary financial setback, it sucks. I have them all the time. But it's like, never once has it occurred to me, oh, I'm just going to, like, kill everybody and burn everything. So why would that occur to you? Well, why would that occur to you?
It's happened many, many
times. I know. That's what frightens me.
And
that must be, is that a dude thing?
Well, it's a dude thing, and it's an old school dude thing.
That's a dude thing.
And I think what they were is, I think they were kind of autistic, slightly autistic.
Maybe.
To where there was
no offense to autistic
they were like
people,
functioning Aspergers, you know what I mean, where they could function, they could make money, but they didn't realize that life was as fluid as it really is, and they expected to get a job and to work the whole 20 years there and then collect the retirement, and there's no deviation from that. So they go to work for the company, and the company goes out of business and lays them off, and they go, well, shit, I can't pay the bills now. How can I survive as a man? How can I afford this family? You know what I mean? If I can't pay the bills, well, I'm not going to let these kids get poor. It'd be a dishonor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kill everybody.
Because that's obviously better.
And then kill myself. Yeah.
That's like, it's just
death before dishonor.
It is, I guess, but it's just like the weirdest thing to me, because it's just
happens in Japan all the time.
Well, no, I mean, it happens a lot here too. Yeah. It's just like, I've heard of that kind of shit happening, but it's like, that's just really not. That's nothing that would occur to me. That's nothing that would occur.
Well, they kind of came from strict upbringings. You know what I mean? Like I said, it happens in Japan all the time, or at least it used to. Yeah. With the older generation. So I think that's what you're talking about here.
Yeah, it's some crazy shit.
What it seems like. Something happened. He knew he wouldn't be able to.
I mean,
he knew he wouldn't be able to help them anymore.
I can't understand.
He kind of sees them as his creations, because he married them and then brought them into existence by birthing them, or siring them. Yeah. So therefore, they're his responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's a patriarch thing.
That's what I mean. I think that's kind of like an outgrowth of the man, like, owns everything. Yeah. Because
like your stepdad.
He is
kind of. He kind of has that mentality where everyone who's related to him, even by marriage, is somehow his responsibility.
Yeah, and he has to, like, tell you what to do.
He has to tell you how.
Even if you're a grown-ass person.
Even if you're a grown-ass fucking man.
Yeah.
That's what you're dealing with there.
So yeah, so like I said, I do not understand that mindset.
Neither do I.
Because I don't understand. I don't understand. I have never understood my whole entire life. Yeah. I have never understood the, like, audacity of someone that thinks they have the right to tell someone else what to do, like, in their personal life or with their bodies or what. It's like, where the fuck do you get off, like, thinking that you, like, especially someone you barely know.
Yeah, or a person that you're not related to, this motherfucker.
That's what I mean. Or someone you're not related. Even if I am related to you, it's like, I'm a grown-ass person. Don't tell me what to do. It's like, it's what I mean. It's like, I'm not, you know what I mean? It's like, if I ask you for advice, fine, but I won't. I usually won't, because it's like, I don't ask people for advice because they're not me. What the fuck, Well, they don't know. I got to figure shit out on my own.
It's an obsolete thinking, even in a Christian-based fucking society. It's something that's a little more prevalent in, say, like Islam.
Yeah.
Where the older males, for some reason, especially like places like in Saudi Arabia, you know what I mean? Where old guys think everybody underneath them in the family fucking line is somehow under their command.
Yeah.
That's what that's all about.
See, that kind of shit's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You married my granddaughter, so therefore, and I don't like you, and you're not fulfilling certain things, so I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. It's like
that exists.
I don't understand like where. I don't understand
like,
like
bitch,
where
I'm not related to you.
where you get off like telling
Yeah.
another grown ass person what to do.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Well, you've seen it, and I think this is what they're talking about.
Maybe. I mean that's.
It sounds more likely than these kind of implausible organized crime did it.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't buy the organized crime thing.
I think it's more,
I'm not saying that it's not completely impossible that he hadn't like knocked up the daughter. That might be true.
Yeah, but that happened. I think more common. I think that was kind of common, and they would have played that off back then.
Maybe.
They'd have played that off somehow.
Unless he felt really
They'd
bad.
have sent her to a sanitarium or some shit like that.
Or a nunnery.
Or sent her to a nunnery.
Like he did.
Or they would have got her married real quick.
I love how it's like anytime a woman did anything like a little bit deviating from that, it's like, well, off to the sanitarium with you,
or
babe.
He just would have killed her, or something like that.
Yeah.
The whole family and then himself. Nah. That sounds like something.
Why did he spare the son though? That's kind of what.
Because that was his.
He wanted to carry on his line,
the family lineage,
I guess.
Which goes right along in there in line.
Because he was the oldest son.
With the patriarchy type. Yeah. And I hate to say that word because you got a lot of fucking hokey fucking women running around screaming about the patriarchy as if that applies to today.
It does sometimes. It does in some aspects still.
I don't know. You'd have to read into it. This is what I would think is what patriarchy is. I don't give a shit about patriarchy, though.
Well, you don't have to.
I just don't care.
Because you're a guy.
It's not patriarchy. It's just the way it is.
Well, it's
just the way it is. It's just the way things are.
Well, not necessarily.
Certain guys are going to do certain shit because they're guys. They're going to do it. They're going to do certain things. You say, well, that's patriarchy.
Yeah, but you can't let people.
Care.
You can't let people get away with shit just because they're a guy, though.
You.
Because it's like, oh, that's just what guys do, so we have to like let them just do whatever.
Well, I don't really know. I don't really know the exact thing you're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying in general.
I'm just saying that in general,
I'm not allowed to do anything I want to.
You do what you want anyway. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just saying, you know what? I'm just saying I'm not allowed to like go out and do whatever the fuck I want to.
Patriarchy's become like a fucking buzzword. It's a fucking buzzword. And most of the time when they throw that shit out, they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, but like I said, it's kind of hard for you to say because you don't. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to worry about it.
Patriarchy happens within families.
Yeah, sort of. Okay. But yeah, there's other definitions of it too, though.
Well, I can make any kind of definition I want.
No, I'm not. No. I'm not saying that people are making it up. I'm just saying there's other definitions of like dictionary definitions of it. Yeah. I'm just saying that's not just because something has one definition doesn't mean it can't have other definitions.
I just don't think I don't see the world in terms of fucking rights or laws or anything like that. I see the world in terms of ability. You know what I'm talking about?
I guess I know.
Certain people have certain abilities. They could just do things. Is it right or wrong? I don't know. They just fucking did it.
Yeah, but that's. I don't know. That's not good. But like I say, so this was some fucked up shit.
In a way, I believe you can say. In a way, I guess you could say that I kind of believe that ultimately might makes right.
Because
that's what I see.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that that's good, though.
I'm not here to. Okay, here. Okay, I look at it this way. I'm out there, right? I see a bunch of fucking lions, and they're running after the gazelle. The gazelle gets away. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, but those aren't people.
I don't differentiate between people and animals. The gazelle gets away. You say, oh, that's good. The gazelle didn't get eaten. But the baby lions got to eat. The next day, I see the lions get the gazelle and kill the gazelle. I'm sad and go that poor fucking gazelle, but guess what? The baby lion got to eat.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, so, like I said, there's a lot of like.
I just see the entire world like that.
Right. Well, there's a lot of gray area. I'm not saying what I mean.
It's all gray.
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there's kind of,
I'm not a moralizing motherfucker. I know.
Well, I'm not either. Yeah. But I get I get what you're saying. But it's like, but it's like, obviously, this dude who flipped out and killed himself. That's not good.
Well, I'm not going to say that this is good or bad. I'm going to say this. No, I'm going to say that this is stupid. Is what it is. There's a big difference.
Among many other things.
It's just more like stupid. Because if he did it the way I think that he did it, He didn't have to do it, but he just was dumb enough to think he had to.
That's
the thing.
That's what fascinates me about this case is that how, like, okay, let's say for the sake of argument that, okay, maybe he was like, in some financial trouble.
Yeah.
So how do you get from, oh shit, I'm in some financial trouble, how am I going to support my family, to, I think I'm just going to kill them all? That just seems like that's a very, very large gap.
It's about ego.
And yeah,
he was told by his father
that
it was his responsibility to take care of this family. And when he couldn't take care of the family, he felt that he was a failure. And instead of having his family suffer by taking a big blow to their income and becoming poor peons or whatever, he saves them the disgrace by killing them and then erasing himself. Because he thinks that's the way to go.
Well,
I think that's fucking stupid.
It is stupid.
Okay.
It's a huge waste.
I wouldn't
all
have done
those people dead.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it. But
it's and they didn't have any say in it. It's like it's like it'd be one thing if you like asked if like you were in a weird cult or something. You asked them, hey, you want to kill yourself? And everybody said, yeah. It's like nobody.
For some reason,
he didn't ask him.
For some reason, if it went down that way, for some reason, he thought it was his responsibility to make this decision for them because he was in charge.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Member. That's where your problem arises.
That's where the problem came from.
Is when you think that you can make
he was in charge.
Decisions like that for
but
other
he was.
people.
I'm assuming that if he did it that way, and that was the reason he was told that he was in charge, and he believed. That he was
and like
in charge.
I said, that's a problem.
All right, now here's
your bitch
the deal.
ass ain't in charge.
But here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. You'd be stupid to think that you were in charge. Just you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what people do depends upon their perception of reality. And, that's why a lot of bad shit happens, is because some people don't have a very good perception of reality. It's very skewed, or an immature version of reality.
Like I said,
I wouldn't have done that.
Well, I hope not.
No, of course not.
I'm just saying
I just would have got everybody together at a big family meeting and says, look, I lost my job. We're all going to have to fucking
Well, that's what a normal person would do.
Yeah, that's what a normal person would have done, but I don't think this dude was normal.
That's what a normal person would do.
I don't think...
Be like, hey, we're not having Christmas this year, or hey, or something, or some of y'all have to get a job, or something. You would figure something out.
Right.
Not just jump right to let's kill everybody. That's crazy talk.
He must have come from some kind of a background where he didn't even realize a situation like that was possible.
Even though, like I said, they didn't strike me as they had been sharecroppers. I mean, they're generally very poor. Yes, they had. I mean, maybe the fact that they had worked so long and they had saved up enough money to buy their own farm. And so he thought, oh, well, we saved up enough money, we bought our own farm, so now it's going to be like all fucking golden from here on out. And then that wasn't how it worked out. So maybe that's what kind of like flipped him out a little bit, is that he thought he had made it, but he didn't.
Right.
So maybe that's what it was.
This was some old school thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, and he had some old school upbringing. And I don't think he was all that normal to begin with.
Well, clearly.
And he malfunctioned. You know what I mean?
That's one way of putting it, sure.
This is the male version of postpartum depression. And these women that fucking have that, they'll give birth to some kid and they kill themselves. Like, why the fuck did you kill yourself? I was depressed. Hormones and shit.
Yeah.
Well, that can happen to men, too. But it's different.
But they never call it that. It's funny because they never really say, every time like a woman flips out, there was hormones, or she was on her period or something. But dudes have hormones too.
Yeah, but they don't call it that.
But they never call it that. Yeah. just like it always kills me the way they always say like women, if women are like mad about something, it's like, so you're getting emotional. They never say that when men get angry.
Oh, men get emotional.
That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
It's like anger is an emotion.
Yeah. Put a motherfucker on steroids. He'll do all kinds of crazy shit.
That's what I mean.
Because of all those damn...
But they never call it that.
He got the testosterone 15 times the testosterone of
that makes me really mad.
And that motherfucker's a nut. He's a lunatic.
Yeah.
15 times the normal testosterone of a man. And he wants to fight and fuck everything.
Yeah. That's what, but see, that's the kind of shit that makes me mad, and that's the kind of shit, it makes me mad because people don't think about it. Yeah. You don't think about it. You just think about, like, a woman gets angry and they're just like, oh man, who lit the fuse on her tampon or whatever. Like, I've said it. But it's like a man gets, like, all mad and ragey and shit. Nobody, like, blames it on his period, or it's like, you know, or nobody blames it on his hormones, even though that's what it is. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah. But it's like
testosterone's a hell of a drug.
Like, for some reason, it's only like only women are emotional. I don't get that.
I remember what it was be like. I remember what it was like to be 13, 14, 15.
That's what I mean.
That's some hormones right there, man.
That's some bad shit. And like, and honestly, I mean, in my personal experience, I have men in general, and like not everybody, obviously, so don't like, you know, flip out. Men in general are more emotional, more moody, you know,
more jealous.
Yeah, just like they have like a lot more extremes of emotion than women have. So to me, it's very funny that women get kind of like shit on for being like emotional, or it's, oh, you crying, blah blah blah. No, I'm just saying, like, in general, like how they kind of like call women out for that. Like, and it's like a woman gets angry, they're like, oh, she's getting all fucking she's getting all like on the rag or whatever. And I'm just saying
that's you know, okay.
So that's just something that a lot of people say, but it's like, it's funny that most women I know are pretty even keel.
Most of the time, I think.
Most of the time, it's like you don't get too many like shrieking crazy. Well, I don't hang out with any chicks like that anyway. I don't know anybody like that. Not really.
I have.
I mean, I've known people like that, but they're not friends of mine because I don't like that either. Right. It's like, keep your drama over there, please, male or female. It's like, I don't want somebody around that's going to be like that all the time. They got a lot of
vocal fry fucking chicks. They got a lot of that.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't hang out with people like that. I don't know if that
has to do with any hormones or not, but, you know.
I don't hang out with people like that, so I don't really know. Yeah. I mean, pretty much every chick I've ever been friends with has been, like, normal.
Well, this dude here, I don't think this fucker was all that fucking sound to begin with, and something went wrong in his life, and to save the honor of his family, he decided he was going to take him out.
Yeah, and like I said, there have been other cases like that where...
Right, yeah.
A similar thing happened.
I think he thought he was going to lose the house or something.
Yeah.
And he came from a background where he thought it would be a natural progression to move forward, that there was no moving back. And because there was going to be a setback, he couldn't deal with that.
Yeah.
So everybody had to go.
Well, like I said, maybe he'd worked very hard to raise enough money to buy the farm, and he thought...
Then
I get that.
And he let the oldest son survive to continue on the family line, going back to Adam. It was going to be some shit like that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, because of God. It's going to be something like that. Because going back to Adam to carry on so he could reseed and start again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to be something like that.
Fucking hell. Yeah. So, for the last case, here's another case of a dude who flipped out and killed several members of his family. In this case, it was his ex-wife and several of her relatives. And this is like... No, well, this is like, you know how, like, Killer Santas? Okay, well, this is another one of these. Now, this is quite recent. This only happened in 2008, and this is known as the Covina Massacre, and this happened on Christmas Eve of 2008. Covina is in the suburbs of Los Angeles, California. 9 people were killed, either by gunshot wound or by arson, because the dude fucking burned the house down.
What year was this?
2008.
Okay.
Or a combination of the two things. This happened at a house at 1129 East Knollcrest Drive, where there was a Christmas Eve party going on. The perpetrator of the massacre was a 45-year-old man named Bruce Pardo.
He was sick of that shit.
He entered the house wearing a Santa suit and started opening fire.
Yeah. Merry motherfucking Christmas.
Yeah, this is fucked up. They made a movie about this later on, too, called Silent Night.
All right.
But like I said, you see those horror movies about killer Santas, that shit happens. And it happened in this case. So, so it's about 11:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Christmas Eve. Bruce comes into the house wearing a Santa Claus suit. He knocks on the door. This was his ex-wife's parents' house. So this is his former in-laws. So he knocks on the door. They were having a party. There was about 25 people inside. He had in his hands, like a gift wrapped like a present. Inside the present was a homemade flamethrower.
Okay, yeah, cool.
And not cool.
Homemade flamethrower. No,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah.
And he also had 2 9mm semi-automatic handguns.
Okay.
He had 2 additional 9mm semi-automatic handguns.
So he had 4
on his possession. Yeah, but these were like in his box.
He had
like,
his
a good
whole
box.
collection with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he knocks on the door. Someone answers. He pulls out 2 handguns and shot his 8-year-old niece in the face.
Asshole.
He didn't kill her. She did live,
lived,
but I mean, she had horrible like
What an
injuries.
asshole.
Yeah. Yeah, she like runs to like she knew who it
Shot
was.
an 8-year-old
Obviously,
girl.
yeah, and he's
Yeah.
like running to me like, "Hey, Uncle, whatever your fucking name
Yeah.
is, Uncle Bruce," and he shot her in the fucking face. 8 years old. God damn it.
I would purify him by fire.
And then obviously after the gunshots, like everyone starts running around and freaking out, and then he starts shooting people in the back.
Damn.
Then after he starts shooting, then he unwraps the Christmas present, takes out his fucking homemade flamethrower.
Yeah.
Which was filled with racing fuel gasoline.
Okay.
And set the house on fire.
Yeah.
So, as I said, 9 people died from either, like, the gunfire, because he was just, like, spraying bullets everywhere, like, died from gunfire, or died in the fire, like, from the flames or the, smoke inhalation, or a combination of the 2 things. 3 others were wounded. The 8-year-old girl that he shot in the face, who was his niece, she survived, but she had very severe injuries. A 16-year-old girl who he shot in the back, and a 20-year-old woman who was trying to get out of the house. She jumped out of a second-floor window and broke her ankle. There was actually one survivor of the massacre. He jumped out of the window and went to the neighbor's house and called 911. It took 80 firefighters an hour and a half to extinguish the blaze. The house was completely demolished.
What about him?
I saw a picture of it. He actually ran away and went to his brother's house. This is what happened. So after this happened, he took off, changed out of the Santa suit, got into his rental car, and then he drove to his brother's house, which was about 30 miles away, and shot himself in the head.
Yeah.
His brother was not home at the time. Now,
It's because he couldn't face the facts of what he did.
they thought that initially that he was going to flee the country because he had like an airline ticket to like an Air Canada airline ticket. But what happened, the flight itinerary, it was on Northwest Airlines. It was supposed to go from Los Angeles to Moline, Illinois, because I guess he had friends or family there. But there was supposed to be a layover in Minnesota. And apparently he had high school friends in this place in Illinois, and he had called them a few days before and said he was coming to visit. So they didn't know if he was actually planning to go there or if that was just like some kind of ploy.
I bet you he didn't.
Yeah, like they thought, they weren't really sure. They said, well, he might not have been planning to go there.
By doing that.
Right. But he had visited these friends like a couple months prior to the massacre. So one report, and this says this on the Wikipedia page, it says the Santa suit during the flamethrower portion of the attack. I don't know who wrote this Wikipedia page, but that turn of phrase just like amused me and horrified me at the same time. Yeah. The flamethrower portion of the attack, during that, the parts of the Santa suit had adhered to his skin.
Yeah,
so not all of it could be removed
because it melted up on him.
Yeah, because he had like a bunch of when they found him like dead, he had a bunch of 3rd-degree burns on his arms.
That's because his flamethrower didn't work.
Yeah. Now, when they searched his dead body, they found $17,000 in cash wrapped onto his legs with like saran wrap inside like a girdle.
Where'd he get all this money?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Where the fuck do you get $17,000 in cash?
And then you have all this money.
I don't think I've ever had $17,000 in cash at one time in my whole entire life.
So you have all this money. You're gonna set a wipeout.
Actually, I know I haven't.
You're gonna wipe out your ex's family and escape with $17,000. You got the $17,000. What do you care about the ex-wife's family for?
See, I don't know.
He's crazy.
That's what I mean. It's like, what the fuck, man? If I had $17,000 in cash,
go to Vegas, man.
That's what I mean. I'm like, why would I fucking care? I don't care how mad I am at you. I'm just like, I'm out of here, man. I got $17,000. Bye. I don't need to kill nobody.
Douche like him could go to fucking Vegas, fucking hookers and blow for fucking months.
That's what I mean.
What the fuck's he doing?
$17,000, man. That's like I was butthurt. I've been like years where I made less money than that.
Yeah.
That's like, I could live a long time on $17,000. I'm very frugal.
You can live there.
But I'm just saying, so.
But he's fucking butthurt.
So clearly. So he had all this cash, and he had it on him. Like, he had it strapped on him, like, with fucking plastic wrap.
He thought he was going to jump out of an airplane like fucking fucking DB Cooper. DB Cooper.
Also, when they found his rental car, which was parked like a block from his brother's house where he shot himself, apparently the rental car had been rigged with black powder, like, to blow up.
Yeah.
So he done that too.
Yeah.
They also found at the scene, 4 13-round capacity handguns that were empty, 200 rounds of ammunition. The car they thought was like a bomb, so they had to, like, the bomb squad had to come and blow it up. When they went to search this douchebag's house in Montrose, they found 5 empty boxes for semi-automatic handguns. They found a Benelli M2 tactical shotgun and a container for high-octane fuel tank gasoline. And they also found what they described as a quote-unquote virtual bomb factory in his house.
Yeah.
So 3 of the victims, the eventual victims, like I said, 9 people died, 3 were wounded. 3 of the victims' deaths were caused by only gunshot wounds. 4 others died from a combination of gunshot wounds and the fire that he had set in the house. 2 other deaths came just from the fire.
He's a hoe.
The Wikipedia page says at least 13 children were orphaned after the massacre. Like I said, this was his ex-wife's, his in-laws, and like his extended family, like nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, that type of thing. They were having a Christmas party.
What the fuck did they do to him to make him that mad?
Here's the thing. Okay, now this is what and like I said, dudes and butthurt, man. This is what I'm saying. Like, a dude's getting more emotional about stuff like that. You know, in general, it's like bad shit happens. You just
wait. This motherfucker shoes up the whole fucking
you just
house.
deal with it.
Dudes.
No, I'm just
dudes don't have anything to do.
No, I'm just saying. Well, you don't see a lot of women doing this type of shit. You know what I mean? When bad things happen, you don't jump to. Like I said, it's a very small percentage of dudes. I'm just saying that women, when shit like this happens to them, if bad things happen with their marriage or whatever, they don't immediately jump to, I'm just going to kill all these motherfuckers. It doesn't occur to you. It just doesn't occur to you.
I'm a dude. It doesn't occur to me.
I said it's a very small percentage, but I said it's almost so you don't see women doing this kind of shit.
You're fucking crazy.
So apparently, what they thought the motive was Bruce Pardo. So a year prior, his ex-wife had filed for divorce. Now, a week before the massacre, which was December 18th, the week before Christmas, the divorce had apparently been finalized. Now, they noted that Bruce Pardo, prior to this, had no history of violence, no domestic violence, no nothing, no criminal record. However, several months prior to the massacre in July, he had been fired from his job. He was an electrical engineer. They think that the reason that his wife filed for divorce is that he had a kid from a previous relationship and had not told his wife about the kid. So apparently that was, some cause of contention, and I guess she just didn't take it anymore. Apparently also there was a thing where they had only been married a year or two, and apparently he wasn't she had a couple kids from an earlier marriage. And he apparently told her, well, you have to use your money to take care of them, because he was not a team type of guy, I guess. Yeah. And I guess he didn't want it. Yeah, he's like, well, I'm not paying for it. Those are your kids, so you just take care of that business. So that was some of the thing too. Now, in June of 2008, which was about 6 months before the massacre occurred, they had gone to divorce court, and apparently Bruce had to pay almost $1,800 a month for spousal and child support. And so at the time, Bruce was complaining to all his friends. It's oh, my ex-wife is taking all my money and blah, blah, blah. And only a month after that, he got fired from his job for billing false hours, which you're not supposed to do that. Right. So he got fired, rightfully so. He did have the support payments suspended, after he got fired, because the court understood that he didn't have the money anymore. So, he didn't have to pay. But he also had to pay his ex-wife, I think, $10,000. That was part of the divorce settlement. She ended up keeping their dog, and she kept the wedding ring, which they usually do. But he was complaining because he's oh, well, she gets to live with her parents, which, yay, everybody wants to do that when you're fucking an adult. She gets to live with her parents and not pay any rent, and I have to give her all this money, and it's not fair, and wah, wah, wah. And then he was, like, saying that, oh, she's going to Vegas, and she's going to restaurants, and just, like, spending all my money, and yada, yada, like they all say. So, apparently, they're speculating that maybe because he had, like, pissed and moaned to his friends that she was taking all his money, and what a bitch she was, and blah, 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 and that was probably what the motive for it was. He did not kill his ex-wife, however. I don't believe it was her family.
He wanted her to live.
He killed pretty much her.
Yeah.
He went to the parents' house.
Dude's a hoe.
Yeah. So apparently, this was kind of like, even though I hadn't really heard about this until I kind of went researching, this was apparently kind of a cultural, kind of a big cultural thing that happened, because there was a movie in 2012, like I said, that was called Silent Night, that was basically about a guy who put on a Santa suit and made a flamethrower, and it was based on this, and went around killing people, like a Killer Santa movie, and that was based on this. And also, do you remember Polystyrene from X-Ray Specs? She recorded a song in 2010 that was called Black Christmas, and it was about this. And then there was also another song that came out in 2010 called Santa Syndrome by the Boombox Poets, which was also about this case. So apparently this was fairly well known, I guess, in California, even though I had never heard of it before now. But like I said, Killer Santa, this was a real kill. He put on a Santa suit and everything, and he had a fucking flamethrower, and he wrapped it in a fucking present. He had the guns and the flamethrower in a present, and he came to the fucking door and did that shit, just like a fucking horror movie.
Yeah, fuck that dude.
Pretty much.
Okay.
All right.
Shut it down.
Sorry to leave you on such a bummer note, but that's what we do.
Fuck that dude.
It's a horror show. It's a Christmas show. It's like we do true crime. You know how we do. But so anyway, we will wrap up episode 175, our very long Christmas special. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you guys have a very, very, very happy holiday, whatever holiday it is that you celebrate, or if you don't celebrate one, then don't.
Contribute on Patreon, and make sure you subscribe and share.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do Patreon, I mean, that's cool too. You can go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a link in the sidebar. It's a little button, and you can go to a PayPal account if you would like to give a one-time donation to the show, like some of our other people have done around this Christmas season. It is much appreciated, and it will do it for our 2019 Christmas special. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, have a happy new year. We will see you next time. Bye.